Yo, it's your boy Ryan, Northwest Sports Fanatics, back at you with a new video. Today is Saturday, December 13th, 2025, with your boy Ryan and the Northwest Sports Fanatics. Make sure you guys subscribe to the channel. Smash that like button either now or on your way out. Donate to your boy if you can. Cash App $, ORION-NWSF, or the YouTube Super Chat right here. We got the Boise State Broncos versus the Washington Huskies in the bucked up LA Bowl. Kickoff is going to be here in a few minutes. So let's cue up the music, take a look at the thumb, and let's get settled in for the bucked up LA Bowl. Happy Saturday, everyone. Boise State versus the Washington Huskies. Jonah Coleman in the building. I see you. And again, the kickoff was supposed to be at 5 p.m., but obviously the Heisman ceremonies lasted a little bit longer. And just like Marine Bean mentioned, Fernando Mendoza won the Heisman. I don't think anybody was surprised by that decision. That was pretty much, what was going to happen. There was no other player that you could really argue besides maybe Jeremiah Love for Notre Dame. But, based on Indiana beating Ohio State and, winning the Big Ten title, it was pretty much a wrap. And then Polo signing with the Mets, considering they lost Alonso and Diaz and a few others. 2 years for $40 million. If the Mariners would have made that move, Mariner fans would have complained that it was too much. Maybe $20 million a year for Josh Naylor. 2025 would have been okay, but not for Polo. And again, they definitely had some money to spend since they lost quite a few people. And again, we will wait and see what the Mariners do. It would have been nice to be able to get Polo back, but it is what it is. Daniel in the building, what's good? Lenny D in the building, what's good? Yeah, we got John Cena with his last match. Obviously, they're on Saturday night. So, you got a few different events, going on here. And again, we just have to wait here a moment or two to get everything settled in, and we will be ready to go in just a minute. So give me 1 sec. And while I get situated here. We're at a commercial break. Everything's getting settled in. Shout out to my boy Brooks Beats with the best beats on YouTube. We'll be shooting for 100 likes, 100 on the Dono train, and 5 to 15 subs. Let's get it, baby. Oh, let's go. When you're starting to get into bowl season, it definitely... It hits you a little bit differently depending on how much of a fan you are, in the college football game as well as the NFL. We still got a few months to go, before the NFL is over. But once you start getting into the bowl games and the college football playoff, the reality is, we're getting down to the nitty gritty. And again, for, some fans, these bowl games don't matter. To some of the coaches and some of the players, they don't matter, but if you are a fan, it's one last, chance to be able to check out your favorite players from your favorite team, and also to be able to up the draft stock, for any player that's playing. So love to be able to see Damon Williams for the Huskies at QB. He's like Kyler Murray, but, playing for the Huskies in college, right? You got, obviously, Jonah Coleman, one of the best running backs in the game. We know Jeremiah Love was great for Notre Dame, but let's not sleep, on obviously Jonah Coleman. And then, with Boston as well. We know how good of a wide receiver he is. And here we go. Oh, nice return. Bouncing it to the outside. And a nice return there by the Boise State Broncos. 9-4 going against the 8-4 Huskies. Boise State ended up winning their division. Washington finished in that 6th, 7th range. So we will see what Maddox Madsen will do. 20-5 record, 14-1 in the MWC in the Mountain West Conference. So we will definitely see if he'll be able to push this football down the field after that nice kickoff there by Mozgolewski. all the way to Malik Sherrod for 41 yards. First down and 10 at the Boise State 44. Man in motion, handoff right up the middle. And Riley getting upended there by the Huskies. Good defense. Second down and long for the Broncos. Second down and 7 for the Boise State Broncos. And the bucked up LA Bowl live globally on ABC. Sync through ESPN as well. And looks like Huskies jump off sides, but we might have gotten a false start. And Dylan Riley with a run of no gain whatsoever. 0 yards on that last play. And then Esteen with a nice tackle there, the safety for the Huskies. And then we got offsides here on the Huskies. 5-yard penalty. Repeat second down. And this will be the last year that we do the Bucked Up LA Bowl, sponsored through Robert Gronkowski and a few others as well. Second down and 2 for Boise State. Play action. And a nice throw, zipping it in there, threading the needle. Chris Marshall there, I see you. First down, Broncos. Move the chains. Nice route there by Chris Marshall. Even though he slipped himself, got his hands up and got a nice first down there for Boise State. Should be a very competitive matchup between both these teams. 9-4 Boise State, 8-4 Washington Huskies. They match up perfectly. Could go either way. But at the moment, first down and 10 now for the Broncos. Handoff up the middle. And a nice gang tackle there by the Huskies. Dylan Riley there with a short gain. A lot of ground and pound you're going to see from both of these teams. Second down and 7 for the Broncos. And Dylan Riley's been pretty solid for them. 1,097 yards on the ground, 5.9 average, and 10 tutties for the season. Shotgun set. And there is Riley again, but met by 3 Huskies there, right there at the line of scrimmage. Minimal gain. Third down and 6 here for Boise State. Third down conversion, 47%. That's second in the Mountain West Conference. Huskies coming up and showing blitz. Audible at the line there for the Broncos. Reflect in the building. What's good? Let's go Dogs. Shotgun set for the Broncos. Flag comes out. Scrambling, gambling, quarterback tucking, sliding. Safe. First down, Broncos. But that might be coming back to a hold on the O-line. Reflect in the building. What's good? Appreciate you. Stacks. Racks with a little Cactus Jack. Bang, bang. Third down and 11 now after the hold there from Boise State. Polo going to the Mets for 2 years, $40 million. He got overpaid. The final decision was just a few more million that the Mets offered after they lost Pete Alonso to the Orioles, Edwin Diaz to the Dodgers, and a few other starters on that team. So they had money to spend, but Polo's dad lives in New York. So that was really the final straw. And I wish Polo the best. It would have been cool to bring him back, but obviously, family is first. And he's going to go there for at least 2 years. Shotgun set on third down and 11. Get him, Huskies! And a little check down, incomplete. Good defense there by the Dogs. Let's go. And they're definitely getting chippy, talking trash already between both groups. Let's go. 4th down and 11. Great job by the Husky defense, and even though this season didn't turn out the way that they wanted, a very competitive football team, just like the Boise State Broncos, who won the Mountain West Conference with the 9-4 record. So, both of these teams were, kind of hoping for, potentially 2 less losses and going 10-2 or 11-2, something of that nature, for Boise State and Washington. But, obviously competition is tough. Kick is up. And it is good. 52-yarder. Wow. NFL range. Boomer. Hitting that boomer kick. Wow. And again, you don't really see college kids hitting 50-plus field goals that often. It happens here and there. But now we're going to get to the really what everyone is waiting for. Damon Williams Jr., the Kyler Murray, of the college football ranks. You got Jonah Coleman at running back. And obviously you got Boston at wide receiver. Again, definitely excited to be able to see what the Washington offense can do and see if they can put up points on the board here early in the first quarter. Boomer's a great name for a kicker. And obviously the festivities lasted a little bit longer than we wanted with the Heisman Trophy ceremony, but congratulations, Fernando Mendoza. But again, for all of the, other individuals that were invited, they had no chance. You knew Sayan wasn't going to get it. You knew Jeremiah Love wasn't going to get it. Diego wasn't going to get it. So again, you had other individuals invited. Jeremiah Love's stats were definitely Heisman worthy. And again, there has been, some chatter, from certain individuals that have won the award, like Johnny Football and others, kind of, making not really trying to make a crack at it, but again, one big throw and one big catch, obviously kind of solidified Fernando Mendoza's Heisman, ceremony, kind of moment and whatnot. But there definitely has been previous Heisman winners at quarterback that might have been a little bit more dominant, at the position. But if you have to look at who he had to go against this year, he was the clear-cut winner, and there was no one that was even going to come close. No matter if Jeremiah Love would have scored 40 touchdowns, I mean, realistically, they were going to give the award to a quarterback. And, congratulations to Indiana, Cignetti, Fernando Mendoza. And I'm definitely looking forward to an opportunity to get payback on them in the college football playoff. Obviously, we got to go through JMU, Texas Tech first, and then possibly Oregon and Indiana. And then whoever ends up winning that will end up playing Georgia or Ohio State on the bottom half of the bracket for the Natty. But, we definitely have a path that seems kind of attainable. But again, you got to get the job done on every single game moving forward. 3-0 Boise State. Anything that you want to see photo-wise reflect, let me know, and I got you. We're at 20 on the Dono train, 80 to go. Like, sub, donate, comment, share. If you haven't smashed that like button yet, please do. Help us get to 100 likes, 100 on that Dono train. We're at 20, 80 to go, and we're looking to get 5 to 15 subs. Let's get it, baby. And shout out to my boy Brooks Beats with the best beats on YouTube. Yeah, you definitely could see, the brother, who also was the backup quarterback, there on Indiana, tearing up, dad tearing up, coach tearing up, mom tearing up, obviously a very special moment. And not to take away, anything, because obviously winning the Heisman is not an easy thing to do, but it wasn't like, the same type of class where you had like Cam Newton and Andrew Luck and LaMichael James, where it was definitely a little bit closer voting wise and whatnot. But shout out to Fernando Mendoza. He definitely was a dog all year. And if they didn't have him, they're not in the position of being, the Big Ten champs and having a chance to potentially win it all this year. So obviously to go from what they had the previous year to this year, it was a huge difference. And shout out to the Indiana Hoosiers and Fernando Mendoza. 3-0 lead here for Boise State with that long 50-plus yard field goal. And let's see what the Huskies, the Dogs, can do here on their first attempt here at SoFi Stadium. We'll do Sunday Night Football and Monday Night Football like usual, and I'm really looking forward to Thursday night when we get the Rams versus the Seahawks. That's going to be must-see TV. All right, here we go. Damon Williams Jr., 2024 Sun Bowl against Louisville, 26 for 32, 374 yards and 5 tutties. Almost a perfect quarterback rating in that game. And again, we want to see the Kyler Murray of college football. You're going to see him here in just a moment. I've heard a lot of things. If you would have seen pictures of me when I was in high school, Mario Lopez, I was much more tan at that point, and, that doesn't bother me one bit. Damon Williams steps up in the pocket and decides to slide safely. We don't want to have any cases of CTE, here in college, and a good decision there. And obviously with all the coaching carousel, situations like with the Michigan job and what happened with that individual that ended up getting arrested. Obviously Fish is one of the top candidates to leave Washington and go to Michigan, but right now focused on the Huskies, and hopefully we can see if he can get the job done. And, if he does leave to go to Michigan, then we'll find out what happens with Washington after this game. 2nd down and 7, handoff up the middle. And Jonah Coleman there with a 2-yard run. Notriani, Marco, the linebacker there with the tackle. 3rd down and 5 at the Washington 30. I like the huge logo for the Boise State Broncos, and they're kind of doing the Alabama thing with a number on the other side. And it's a very clean look. I really like that shade of blue. And then obviously with the Huskies, you can't go wrong with the purple and gold. The only team that really rocks that type of look. And nice screen pass there. Let's get it. 1st down, Dogs. Boston, hoop trains. 1st down, Huskies. Boston is a stud wide receiver. Coleman is a stud running back. And obviously, Damon Williams Jr. at quarterback. You got the trifecta. And Denzel Boston will get in the end zone once, maybe even twice. Williams towards the sideline. And nice catch there by Boston. He's going to be a mismatch on any Boise State secondary member on the squad here. 2nd down and 1 for the Washington Huskies. You think Fish is going to stay? We know Dan Lanning is going to stay in Oregon, and he might end up breaking a record for staying the longest out of any coach that's on a current team, and hopefully he ends up being the coach for 10, 15 plus years or longer. We would love that. And Jonah Coleman with the pitch. Go, baby, go. 1st down, Huskies. Because again, if you're always looking for what's, greener on the other side, again, the grass isn't always greener on the other side. And sometimes it's better to build a program instead of just leapfrogging from program to program. And, obviously if another job comes up that's more, desirable, that has more prestige, I get it. But again, I like what Dan has locked in. Floater, back of the end zone, incomplete. And Omari Evans, the intended receiver there for Damon Williams Jr. 2nd down and 10 at the Boise State 29. Mike in the building, what's good? And again, to some individuals, the Michigan job, might be more prestige. But again, you're only going to go as far as your coach. And obviously we've seen with Michigan as well as Alabama, they're not the same without Harbaugh, or Nick Saban. But again, hard to fill those shoes. 1-yard run there by Jonah Coleman. Nostriani and Kaywood with the tackle. 3rd down and 9 at the Boise State 28. Shout out to my boy Brooks Beats with the best beats on YouTube. 3rd down and long, 3rd down and 9 for Damon Williams. Let's see what he can do here. Hopefully they can keep moving the chains. Yeah, multiple factors. Money obviously matters. Got to have the right coach, the right recruiting staff, donors, NIL, it all comes together. And then a nice 10-yard pass there from Damon Williams Jr. to Denzel Boston, his number 1. 1st down, Dogs. Move the chains. This is going to be a very back-and-forth matchup, and, definitely could be in the high 20s or even the 30s before it's over. And back to Jonah Coleman. I guess if the defense really starts tearing it up, it could potentially be, I think the lowest it could be would be maybe 2017, but I'm pretty sure that this is going to be in the mid to high 20s, possibly the 30s. At least that's what I'm hoping for. Nice. Go Dogs. Sarah in the building. What's good? See if the offensive line can open up some bigger holes for Jonah Coleman. We know he's a stud, just like Jeremiah Love at Notre Dame. And the pocket collapsing. Uh-oh, it's 12 noon. You know what time it is. Time for a sack lunch. Yum, 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 yum. Big sack lunch there for Lane. 3rd down and 13 at the Boise State 21. And we already got a 50-plus yard field goal there from Boise State, making it 3-0 here early. And again, it's kind of nice when you only have like one major college football matchup today besides Army-Navy that was on earlier this morning. 3rd down and 13, shotgun set for Damon Williams, audible at the line. Pressure coming up the middle. Damon running towards that left side. Breaks one tackle and leans forward, and I think they're going to give it to him. 1st down, Huskies. There we go. And the Kyler Murray of college football strikes again. 14-yard run. Nastriani with a nice tackle there, but you pushed him forward. 1st and goal at the Boise State 7. Whistle's blown here by the refs. All right, under review to see if, where his knee and where that football was when he ended up getting pushed forward by Nastriani. Marco from Boise State, the linebacker there. Like, sub, donate, comment, share. If you haven't smashed that like button yet, please do. Help us get to 100 likes, 100 on that dono train. We're at 20, 80 to go, and we're looking for 5 to 15 subs. Let's get it, baby. Shout out to my boy Brooks Beats with the best beats on YouTube. Obviously, his first album, Through the Beats, is going to launch on January 1st, 2026. So he had to go through, hundreds of beats to be able to kind of put his first album together, which I believe is only going to be about 12 tracks or so, mixed and mastered by the best. And again, can't wait to be able to support him and his dream and his journey moving forward, not only in 2025, but 2026 and beyond. All right, when the knee goes down, he's short of the marker, based on that particular freeze frame. But, we will see, if they overturn this call or not. Yeah, 2 years, $40 million though. But again, if we would have signed him, all of the Mariner fan base would have said, "You're dumb. $20 million a year, he's not worth it." So it would have been a lose-lose situation regardless. If we got him for 2 years, $40 million, Mariner fans would have complained. And then he went to the Mets. Obviously, they lost Pete Alonso to the Orioles. Edwin Diaz goes as the closer to the Dodgers. They lost 3 or 4 starters, so they had money to spend, but $20 million a year is a little steep for Polo. He's more 10 to 15 million a year. I mean, he wanted to be close to his dad who lives in New York. So I think he did the right thing. I don't know if we're going to be able to, shift our, vision to Gino now, who is kind of on the back burner, but I don't think we should spend money on Gino either. I should, let him get his money somewhere else. We can always move Colt Emerson to third base. You got Cole Young, who could play second, with Ben Williamson and Colt Emerson at third, JP at short. And we know Colt Emerson can play second, short, or third. They're going to have Polo play first, for the Mets. I don't know if he can do that, but that's where they're going to possibly slate him. So we'll see where it goes. Play action, floater, back of the end zone, and complete. But again, Polo, if you're going to play him at first base, good luck. We know he's not a very good defender, but he is a damn good hitter. And when you lose Pete Alonso and a few of the other starters, what do you have to lose if you're New York? Paying a couple million extra per year to get a guy after you lost 3 or 4 of your starters. I mean, sometimes you got to overpay. 2nd and goal after that pass from Damon Williams Jr. to Raiden Vines-Bright was incomplete. 2nd and goal at the Boise State 7. Come on, Dogs. Hand off to Jonah Coleman, spin move, and it gets brought up and put down. Notriani is all over. He's like Nostradamus out there. He's predicting the future and he's predicting the plays. And again, he is one of the best players on the Boise State Bronco defense. And literally, he's been in on almost every single play up to this point. What a dog. 3rd and goal at the Boise State 7. So let's see if we can get Denzel Boston with a fade route or a crossing route here, or a hitch or a curl for a touchdown. But we definitely love what Polo brought to the team. Obviously, the first year wasn't so good. Last year was great, and we wish him all the best. Shotgun set, 3rd and goal. Pocket breaking down. Uh-oh, it's 12 noon. And you know what time it is? Time for a sack lunch. Yum, 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 yum. And just like I mentioned, that a certain guy, Nutriani, was in on every single play. Guess who makes the sack lunch? Nutriani. So again, every single tackle, every single big play, one-on-one, he's a mismatch. You know, he's looking like Brian Urlacher out there, and it definitely shows. Wow. 4th and goal now at the Boise State 15. And now we got Grady Gross coming out there, who should be able to make this chip shot. But again, field goals and extra points are no longer gimmies. Kick is up, and it is good. We're knotted up at 3 here with 5:04 left in the first quarter. Anything that you want to be able to see photo-wise reflect, let me know, and I got you. 4:20 left in the first quarter between the Boise State Broncos 9-4 and the 8-4 Washington Huskies. If you're just tuning into the matchup, Boomer with a 3-point affair, obviously early, 52-yarder, 4 plays, 21 yards. So the drive kind of stalled, but obviously Boomer got the job done. Great name for a kicker for Boise State. And then we just saw Grady Gross match that with a 33-yarder. And 15 plays, 60 yards, gave up a couple sack lunches there. But again, definitely an entertaining matchup here between the Boise State Broncos and the Washington Huskies. See whatever Husky photos I can come up with here. See if we can get some Husky photos of some of the studs there on offense and defense for you. Little Damon Williams Jr. there. Little Jonah Coleman there. Let's see if we can squeeze in a Denzel Boston before the game comes back. There we go. The trifecta. Damon Williams Jr., Jonah Coleman at running back, and Denzel Boston at wide receiver. Let's get it, baby. All right, touchback here for Boise State. College football playoff is going to be very exciting. James Madison and Oregon will be doing that matchup. Alabama, Oklahoma will probably be doing that one as well. So we're not going to do every college football playoff game, but there will be a very good amount that we'll do. We'll probably do, I would say, 90% of those games. So definitely looking forward to seeing how everything pans out. And that Alabama-Oklahoma game should be pretty competitive. You would assume, even though Alabama only put up 7 against Georgia, I'm definitely thinking that that's going to be a little bit better than what we saw in the SEC championship game between Georgia and Bama. Hand off on first down, and great coverage there by the Huskies and the Dogs. Manu, I see you. Second down and 9 after Sire Gaines only got 1 yard there to the Boise State 26. Jacob Manu, the linebacker there with the tackle. Shotgun set. Four wide receiver set. And a little check down. And a nice tackle there by two Huskies. Maddox Madsen, the quarterback there. 7-yard pass to Matt Wagner, the tight end. Third down and 2 at the Boise State 33. Really like the helmets for Boise State. It's a very clean look. That shade of blue with the silver. Obviously big Bronco on one side and the number on the other. Very clean. Man in motion. Maddox Madsen under center. Pressure coming up the middle. Nice crossing route. And there we go. A big first down on third down and 2. First down, Broncos. Move the chains. Might be a nightmare for you, Sarah. I'm was kind of hoping it would be someone other than him starting, Latrell Caples, especially going against the Seahawk defense. It could get really ugly really quick. I mean, I hope he does well, but for a quarterback that hasn't played in a couple years, it could get ugly. I think everyone knows that. But I wish him the best. But it could get ugly in that game. I mean, if you guys were playing a team like the Jets or something, then, maybe he would fare a little bit better. Maddox Madsen, pass complete short right to Matt Lauder. Second down and 8 at the 50. Yeah, just a damn shame, on how good you guys were doing at the beginning of the year and kind of this collapse in December with injuries. And, it just sucks, being a fan of, being able to get so excited for the first 2 to 3 months of the season and to have, what happened with Daniel Jones, going to a new team and actually playing really damn well. And hopefully he'll be, better than ever next year. 3-yard run there by Sire Gaines. And Terrio Thompson, the lineman for the Huskies with the tackle. Third down and 5 at the Husky 47. And plus, we know how good the Houston defense is. It wouldn't surprise me if they ended up catching up and winning the division. It's possible. And the Jags are starting to kind of get on a roll as well. So, from a division at the beginning of the year that looked maybe not very good, it actually turned out to being a little bit better than people anticipated now, obviously with the way the Jags and the Texans have played as of late, especially their defenses, primarily the Texans. Third down and 5. Picked. Go, baby, go. Go. Pick 6 it, baby. Down the sideline. Whoa. Let's go. And a big interception for the Dogs. I see you. Alexander with the first pick of the season, and that was beautiful. Go Dogs. And again, when you can have, good players at linebacker, corner, and safety that can be cluing, which is, reading the quarterback's eyes, and that's exactly what you had right there. And again, when you drop back into the zone, Maddox didn't see him at all. And again, sometimes just having that perfect awareness, playing that zone, Alexander slid into that hole and got that amazing pick. Great job in that soft zone. Maddox Madsen, Alexander, I see you. Here we go. Nice job, Huskies. Nice 29-yard return. I was hoping that he would get the blocking downfield to take it to the house, but we weren't able to get that there. 1:09 left in the first quarter, 3-3 game, but it probably won't be 3-3 here for that much more time. Time for Damon Williams, Jonah Coleman, and Denzel Boston to get it moving. Let's go. We'll throw a photo of Polo up for just good measure. We're going to miss you. Especially, what he was able to do, during that Tiger series. If we didn't have him, we're definitely not advancing. But 2 years, for $40 million is a little bit too rich for our blood, and we obviously made the right decision for the guy that was the most important to the team, and it would not be necessarily this guy in Jorge Polanco, but this guy right here in Josh Naylor. So we made the right choice. But even with that being said, we're going to miss you, Polo. Even though it was kind of a rough start, in that first year with Mitch Garver. But, things definitely progressively got better and better at the beginning of the season. One of the best top 10 players at the time. At one point, he was top 2, batting 350 to 450 for like the first month, and then kind of hit a wall, just like any player, in baseball. Baseball is definitely hard, right? It's not going to be like someone's going to be batting 400 for a whole season. And then obviously got hot at the right time when we needed him the most. And I wish him the best. But the thing that I wish, really the most for Polo is not success, on the field for the Mets. I want him to do well while he's there. But I'm really happy that he gets to be close to his dad. And obviously, family is everything. So, his dad lives in New York, and, hopefully that'll, that was kind of the deciding move, with the dad living in New York and whatnot. And, hopefully that, will give him a little bit more time with the family. 109 left here in the first quarter, 3-3 Boise State Broncos and the Washington Huskies in the bucked up LA Bowl. Family is always first, as we know. And again, obviously getting a few more million per year, was, money talks, right? I mean, we can't act like money doesn't matter, especially for these professional athletes. And especially if they're getting a little bit older, you want to make sure you're going to have some kind of, generational wealth for your kids or other family members. And, if you can squeeze out a few more million per year while you're able, that usually is a smart decision. And he ended up changing agents, and that definitely had something to do with it as well. I believe he ended up switching to Julio Rodriguez's agent, and that helped get a few more dollars in his pocket. Catania in the building. What's good? I'm doing well. How are you? Well, we get a good one, Catania, with Alabama and Oklahoma. So, even though Alabama didn't have the season that you wanted or a lot of Bama fans wanted, again, it definitely is going to be a tough matchup with Oklahoma, but it should be entertaining. And I do believe they will play much better than they did in the SEC championship when they only put up 7 against Georgia. They will play better against Oklahoma. But good to see you. This is, we're getting to the back end of college football. And once we get into bowl season, then the reality starts to kind of sink in. We will be doing about 90% of the college football playoff games. And I'll sprinkle in some bowl games here and there, depending on what we have, during the week when we have NFL coverage on Sunday, Monday, and Thursday. Second down and 10. And Damon Williams Jr. going to a little check down and towards the sideline and complete. Denzel Boston, the intended receiver, looked like he was going to go to the check down, and Boston ended up squirting free momentarily, but was not able to get a good look there. And a beautiful route by Boston left his defender in the dust 10 yards away, and the safety had to come over the top. Third down and 10 to the Boise State 34. And again, Denzel Boston's route running and hands. Again, Boise State does not have one player that can keep up with him besides maybe the linebacker. And obviously you're not going to see the linebacker matchup on Boston, I would assume, all game. But 10 tutties for Denzel Boston, which is David Boston's son. Pump fake. Check down. Ooh, big tackle. Guess who? Notriani again. He's like, oh, you're going to run a screen pass on me? Don't you know I'm the Brian Urlacher of college football for the Boise State Broncos? And he immediately sniffed that play out and even got the tackle while that ball was in the air. Beautiful. Fourth down and 16 at the Boise State 40. And again, normally with defense, one player, doesn't make an entire defense. But so far today, that might be something that we have to keep an eye on, because he's been making probably about 95% of the tackles or plays in that first quarter. That was impressive. End of the first quarter in a good one. 3-3 here early between the Boise State Broncos and the Washington Huskies in the bucked up LA Bowl. And at some point, we're going to obviously see Gronk, and here he is, Q Gronk. Like, sub, donate, comment, share. If you haven't smashed that like button yet, please do. Help us get to 100 likes, 100 on that dono train. And 5 to 15 subs. Let's get it, baby. Coming into the stream, we needed 94 to be able to get to 23,400. Let's get it. Shout out to my boy Brooks Beats with the best beats on YouTube. And I'm really digging the Husky spinning logo with the Husky and the W. Usually you just get one or the other, you know, and typically it'll end up being just the W. So anytime you can end up getting a modified logo that ends up having their mascot, pretty cool. What's new in your life, Catania? Anything new? Are you living, in the South still? You're not back in Oregon, right? You're still living in Bama? And if you're just tuning in, Boomer with a 52-yard field goal for the Boise State Broncos. Grady Gross with a 33-yard field goal early on. And again, you know, we definitely have seen a few standout plays. Huskies ended up getting the pick. And eventually, you know, we are going to be able to hit pay dirt and get some of these, you know, potential drives ending in touchdowns rather than field goals. Let's see what other photos I can scrap up here. All right, we're going to get started here in the start of the second quarter. 3-3, 9-4 Boise State Broncos, 8-4 Washington Huskies. Some of these other Husky photos weren't able to format, so I'll have to continue to keep grinding it out. And Huskies with the punt. Get that. Oh. Just slipped through his fingers when we thought potentially we could end up getting that football down to maybe the 2-yard line, but it slipped through his fingers into a touchback. Luke Dunn there with the punt. Beautiful punt. Just, you know, sometimes it just slips through the fingers there. Notriani has been spectacular. Now, if we can just get someone on Boise State to match that kind of energy that Notriani is doing at linebacker for the Broncos. Shotgun set for Maddox Madsen. Man in motion. Shotgun set. And going short middle and batted down. The intended tight end was Matt Wagner. Second down and 10 at the Boise State 20. That's crazy, right? You know, from the days that we used to hang out and watch football and party at the old house. And yeah, you know, time flies. Hope everything is going, good for the up-and-coming second grader as well. And handoff up the middle. Nice tackle there by the Huskies. Sean Clark laying the wood. Beautiful tackle by the safety for the Dogs, the Huskies. 3rd down and 6 at the Boise State 24. Third down and 6 at the Boise State Bronco 24. Shotgun set, trips left, 5 wide receiver set, empty back. And Maddox Madsen goes towards the sideline, throws a little low to Malik Sherrod, incomplete, the running back. And that's going to be a 4th down and 6, and that's going to turn into a punt here for the Broncos. Nice job, Huskies. Yeah, I got a limited edition Foco Shohei Ohtani bauble for my dad since he's been a Dodger fan since the 50s and whatnot. And I was hoping to be able to find some of them a little bit more affordable, but almost blocked on that punt. But I think he's going to absolutely love it. And Oscar Doyle almost got that punt blocked by 2 Huskies, and it ends up going to the Washington 29. $13:51 left in the second quarter, and we'll end up doing the Vikings and Cowboys on Sunday night, Dolphins and Steelers on Monday night, and then the Rams versus the Seahawks on Thursday night. And off up the middle, and Jonah Coleman gets a couple. Steege with the tackle there, and we're actually naming off an individual, other than the top dog there from the Broncos. 2nd down and 6 after that 4-yard run by Jonah Coleman at the Washington 33. Let's see if Steege can make another tackle. He's definitely has some competition there for the Broncos. Damon Williams under center, hands off to Jonah Coleman. Morgan in tackle. Okay, Virgin Morgan there. I see you. 1-yard run there. Jaden Virgin Morgan, the edge there with the tackle. 3rd down and 7 at the Washington 32. Not a whole lot of, running lanes for Jonah Coleman here early. Shotgun set, low snap for Damon Williams Jr. Pressure coming, avoids a sack lunch, steps up in the pocket, hits a juke, and turns nothing into something. Notriani was on his ass. That was about to be a sack and a loss of 5, and, obviously having the Kyler Murray type of, build helped him out there. 2-yard run there from Damon Williams Jr., and that's going to turn into a punt. It's a little bit more of a defensive battle than I think any of us were anticipating here early. I definitely thought that there was going to be some defense, but not as much as we've seen here early. 4th down and 5 at the Washington 34. And fair caught there at the Boise State 26, 27-yard line. And as we go to a commercial break, anything specifically you want to be able to see reflect? You let me know and I got you. 11:55 left in the second quarter in a very competitive, very even matchup between the 9-4 Boise State Broncos and the 8-4 Washington Huskies. And you would assume they'll make the adjustments in the second half, but I don't think it's going to be a low-scoring game. I would assume it would be at least in the 20s. And again, if we end up getting a lower-scoring game, you're going to get at least one team hitting 20. There's no doubt about it. But defense has been impressive, so far for both teams. Especially Triani there for the Boise State Broncos. He's been everywhere. I love me some defense. So regardless if it's the Huskies or the Boise State Broncos, we're definitely going to showcase defensive studs. And the most impressive stud on either side, Marco Triani. Stud. Sarah with a $5. Appreciate you. Let me know what you want to do photo-wise. Stacks. Racks with a little Cactus Jack. Bang, bang. I ended up pulling up the Tyler Warren photos for you on the NFL stream, but I think once I pulled them up and I realized it, I think you already had to leave. So I can always throw up Tyler Warren again if you'd like. No worries about that. Stacks, racks with a little Cactus Jack. Bang, bang. We're at 30, 70 to go on the Dono train. Appreciate the two of you very, very much. Yeah, Showtime. It definitely is. Both teams have a good record. They match up really well, style of play, and we obviously had Army and Navy earlier today. And usually that game, at times, has been lopsided and whatnot. But this will be the last time they do the Bucked Up LA Bowl. Is one of two bowls that are going to be canceled. But again, with the matchup with Boise State and Washington, what a great way to go out with this bowl. And we'll figure out if they come up with a new one at some point or another. Shotgun set. Dylan Riley, who's another good back like Jonah Coleman here for the Broncos, who's got 10 tutties on the year. Dylan Riley, 3-yard gain. 2nd down and 7 at the Boise State 30. Great tackle there on that little screen. Madsen complete there to Alex McLaughlin. No. Alex McLaughlin with the tackle, baby. 3rd down and 7 at the Boise State 30. See if McLaughlin can come up from that safety position for the Dogs and the Huskies and make a few more plays. Maddox Madsen, you got to throw that ball a little bit deeper. Shotgun set. Madsen, deep right. Going to Chris Marshall. And complete. And that definitely looked like a ball that, he definitely had a chance on. Poked away there late. 4th down and 7 at the Boise State 30. He kind of pinned it against his knee right there. If he was able to kind of come up with it and not pin it against his lower body, he probably would have come up with that catch, Chris Marshall. He'll be thinking about that one. And the Broncos with the punt. And good special teams there by the Broncos. And there's plenty of athletes on both sides, that we should be able, to get quite a few more points scored, if not here in the second quarter, if it still ends up being kind of a defensive war, a defensive battle. There's going to be fumbles. There's going to be picks. Could we end up seeing a pick six or a fumble for a touchdown in this game? It's definitely possible with the athletes they have, on both sides of the ball. And again, the offenses have been a little bit in mud. But again, at some point, we would assume at the very latest in the second half, they will start to pick up a few more big plays that, we'll see if they end up hitting the ESPN Sports Center top 10. But great defense early, and I'm not sure if, anyone anticipated that. I mean, obviously, if you have, Marco Nastriani, obviously, that you're going to get something there. But, for the Huskies, at times, if you've watched them this year, it spurts, right? Just kind of like the Husky offense. Sometimes it looks really, really good. Other times, not so much. Defense for the Huskies sometimes looks really good. And then other times, kind of, a little lackadaisical at some points. But it also depends, who you're going up against on the O-line and the D-line. As we know, skill position players always get all the love. The quarterback, the running back, the wide receiver, and the tight end. But where it really comes down to is the line of scrimmage. O-line, D-line, defense, coach, play calling. That's where the outcomes get decided. And, you can't have a garbage quarterback or garbage running backs, wide receivers, and tight ends. But again, the line of scrimmage is definitely the most important. And we will see who ends up winning that here as we move forward. .55 left in the second quarter. 3-3 Broncos and Huskies. Benefield got some great size. 6'2", 205. Love me linebackers, and I love me some safeties. I'm a defensive-oriented fan, which is very rare, not only for just streamers, but I think just in general. I think, 95% of fans are kind of offense first. And again, I just love me some defense. Takes a lot more effort and grind. O-line, D-line, special teams, linebackers, safeties. Just the positions that sometimes get overlooked and underappreciated. Shotgun set. Damon Williams Jr. Oh, nice stiff arm. Wow. And that could have turned into a loss of 3, but turns into positive gain with that stiff arm there by Damon Williams Jr. And again, at some point, hand off to Jonah Coleman, and eventually it'll turn into that play-action play to Denzel Boston deep for a touchdown. You got to be able to kind of be patient. Especially with Marco Nutriani fucking going sideline to sideline like Brian Urlacher or Luke Kuechly. I mean, he is everywhere. 2nd down and 6, man in motion. 10:05 and counting left. Play action. Blitz off the edge. Damon Williams steps up in the pocket. Going deep. He's wide open. Go, baby, go. And on cue, Denzel Boston. Touchdown, Huskies. Let's go. Blown coverage there. And again, it looked like they were going to get the sack on Damon Williams Jr. He ends up sidestepping that pressure. And then obviously that zone coverage got broken. And a beautiful throw. And again, ESP, right? That play is going to happen to Denzel Boston. And sometimes it's a little creepy with the sports gods when we talk about something and it literally happens 5 seconds later. Wow. Nice job. We'll find out in the replay if it ended up being a blown coverage or a slip or maybe even both. Because typically when they're that wide open, it usually ends up being both. Extra point is up and good. Let's see if they actually show the replay here before the commercial break or not. Let me see. Okay, here it is. Yeah, it's a corner blitz by both corners there, as you can see on the graphic. And he's running the post route. Safeties are over the top. 78-yard touchdown pass. Nope, see? It was just blown coverage. Nobody fell down. How are you going to end up being a safety and both safeties go after the same guy? What are you doing? Obviously, they didn't study the tape, knowing that Denzel Boston's the best wide receiver on the team. My God. If you're going to double someone, you double him, and you leave the other guy open. Wow. No slippage on that play. Wow. And again, you're not going to see plays like that, that often. In the college football season, you might see that once or twice in a season. And again, nice job by Denzel Boston making us look smart here on the channel. I mean, usually when we come up with, certain types of, predictions and whatnot, they usually take a little time to come true. Sometimes they happen right away, and beautiful play there from the Dogs. 10-3 Huskies. Beautiful. It was almost kind of weird, like when you saw how wide open he was, like, okay, what's going on here? Guys shouldn't be that wide open, but beautiful 78-yard touchdown pass there from Denzel Boston from Damon Williams Jr. 10-3 Huskies. Now let's see if the Boise State Broncos can answer back here on this particular drive. See what we can get from Maddox Madsen here. Man in motion. Audible at the line. Play action. And a little check down. And Lauder is there in the check down. Good yardage on that play, close to the first down marker. We've got about 9 minutes left here in the second quarter, and a good one. 10-3 Huskies. 8-yard pass from Maddox Madsen to Matt Lauder. Second down and 2 at the Broncos 33. Yeah, we were talking about that earlier in the broadcast, how I really like the color of blue, and also the fact that they're using kind of the Alabama scheme where they got the logo on one side and the number on the other, which is something that Alabama is kind of famous for. But and I like the fact that the Bronco is so big on the side of the helmet, not like a small version or like a medium version. It literally takes up the whole side of the helmet. Very clean look. One of the better, helmets I've seen in quite some time. 3-yard run there by Sire Gaines. First down, Broncos. Move the chains. Man in motion. And we're doing a little jet sweep. Avoids one tackle and another. And can't avoid the third. About a 5-yard gain. Second down and 4 at the Broncos 42. Six-yard run by Quentin Brown. And they go with Sherrod this time around. Gets tripped up. And a 2-yard run there by Malik Sherrod. Third down and 2 at the Boise State Bronco 44. Elenius Davis, the D lineman for the Huskies, with the tackle. We're going to give him an extra yard on that play. Third down and 1 now instead of third down and 2. Even though on the TV, they're going third down and 2, but if you're actually looking at it, it's more like 1. But let's see where they end up getting this. Maybe 1.5. Man in motion. And off up the middle. And there we go. Nice cutback on the counter. First down, Broncos. Move the chains. Sire Gaines with a 3-yard run. First down and 10 at the Boise State 48. Madsen almost got him to jump off sides there. First down and 10. Shotgun set. Pressure off the edge. Check down to the tight end. A reliable check down assassin. Ladder, I see you. And again, for the first, bowl game, this is one of the best that we've ever seen. Normally, we don't see a matchup with two entertaining teams that have NFL talent, for the first game. And, even though the bucked up LA Bowl, this will be the last time that we see this bowl. It's getting canceled after this game, but at least we end up having a great matchup. Shotgun set, handoff up the middle. And after that 5-yard pass from Lauder, we got a minimal gain there. Thompson with the tackle from the Huskies. Dylan Riley, 10 touchdowns on the ground this year, has had a very productive season for the Broncos, filling in for Ashton Genty, obviously, who went to the Raiders. 3-yard run by Dylan Riley. 3rd down and 2 at the Huskies 44. Shotgun set, pressure off the edge, and just out of reach, incomplete. Obviously, the JMU game, Oregon should win. The Texas Tech game will be challenging because it's going to be on at like 9 a.m. So obviously, if we end up, winning against JMU, that Texas Tech game, you can't sleep on that game. That could be a game where if they play well, they could beat Oregon. So, I'm definitely anticipating, a tough one if we get past JMU. Then Indiana, I want the payback and I want the revenge. And then obviously, Georgia or Ohio State should be in the natty in the bottom half of the bracket. So, could end up being Oregon, Georgia, or Oregon, Ohio State. If that was my choice, I would rather go Indiana and then Ohio State. I want the hardest possible outcome after JMU and Texas Tech, to kind of show what we can bring. But, we'll wait and see. College football, it definitely is tough. And we notice when you have like a month off, all the teams that had the bye last year lost. Will all the teams that have the bye this year lose? I don't think so. I think you are going to get 1 or 2 of those teams out of the 4 to win, but I don't think all of them are going to win. 1-yard run there from Maddox Madsen. 1st down, Broncos. But again, even though Georgia, at times hasn't looked as good and maybe as their previous, teams with Kirby Smart, if they make it, to that point, it's possible that they could, match up very well with Ohio State, even though we feel that, even with Ohio State losing to Indiana, to me, those are still the 2 best teams in college football. And then the next tier after them is Oregon with all those other teams, and I do feel that Oregon matches up very, very well. The thing is, when you play against a team like Indiana or Ohio State, usually the difference is going to be defense and sacks. And if you watch Indiana, if you get 5 to 8 sacks on Ohio State and Oregon, that's how you win. And that's what exactly they did. Normally Ohio State and Oregon don't have those kind of sacks against their quarterback. But, the one team that was able to do it to both is Indiana. And it really shows you they have a top 10 offense, top 10 defense, top 10 special teams. Signetti has done a fantastic job, and, Fernando Mendoza just won the Heisman. So, for anyone that thinks that Indiana is a fluke because they're normally not a football school, quote unquote, they haven't been watching them the last 2 years. They've been absolutely fantastic. Weren't good enough to beat the Buckeyes last year, with their quarterback, but with the upgrade with Fernando Mendoza and a few defensive players, O-line and D-line as well, they definitely can hang. And, there's any kind of possibility Indiana could win it all. Ohio State could win it all. Oregon could win it all. Georgia could win it all. But I feel like those are probably the 4 most likely scenarios of going all the way. So I like that. At least we're one of those 4 teams. But again, it's not going to be as hard as last year where we had the bye and then, had to go against Chip Kelly and, they beat us in the first quarter and the game was pretty much over. So we definitely have the easiest path, with JMU, Texas Tech, potentially Indiana, and then Georgia or Ohio State in the natty. But, again, it's all about being hot and healthy at the right time. And, I'm definitely excited to see where, the college football playoff goes and, anything can happen. Like, sub, donate, comment, share. If you haven't smashed that like button yet, please do. Help us get to 100 likes, 100 on that dono train, and 5 to 15 subs. Let's get it. Bang, bang. We gained 2 subs from the last commercial break. Thank you so much. 92 subs to go to 23,400. Damon Williams back there, floater, wide open. Denzel Boston, first down, Huskies. All right, we're at 24 likes, 76 to goal. Let's get it, baby. So Ruka beat Bailey. Yeah, if you want to give me updates on Saturday night and John Cena's last potential, match. But again, there could be something, at the end where potentially Dwayne Johnson, The Rock, or some other special individual may come out to potentially have a WrestleMania kind of match or something for next year. But again, I would have rather had LA Knight, go against John Cena in the last matchup instead of Gunther. But, it is what it is. 7-yard run there by Jordan Washington, the running back for the Huskies. Zion Washington, the Boise State Bronco, with the tackle. Shotgun set, Damon Williams, incomplete there to Decker DeGraff. 3rd down and 3 at the Boise State 36. Less than 5 minutes to go here in the second quarter. 10-3 Huskies. Let's go, Dogs. All right, 3rd down and 5. Shotgun set. Williams hands off to Jonah Coleman. Go, baby, go. First down, Huskies. There we go. And it would only be fitting as a Husky fan watching the game, that not only do you get Denzel Boston in for a touchdown, you want to get Jonah Coleman in the end zone at least once before this game is over. And that's one of the better runs from Jonah Coleman that we've seen. And again, when you got Marco Notriani going sideline to sideline, he definitely plugs up those holes for the Broncos. So again, great job by Jonah Coleman there. Screen pass. Go, baby, go. And a shoestring tackle there. Damon Williams Jr. to Decker DeGraff. Phelps there with the tackle. 2nd down and 3 at the Boise State 19. Judah in the building. What's good? Huskies knocking on the door. Let's go. Handoff, bouncing it to the outside. Good block, go! Wow, Jordan Washington, RB2 for the Huskies in this particular game. 13-yard run, 1st and goal at the Boise State Broncos 6. First down, Dogs. Move the chains. Great matchup tomorrow, Judah. Patriots and Bills. I'll be watching in the morning. Couple good matchups for the Sunday slate for the NFL. Damon Williams, play action. Run! And he keeps his eyes downfield. Touchdown, Huskies! Roebuck is there. Let's go. Desmond Roebuck, the freshman. Let's go, baby. And again, right when he normally tucks it and run, and tries to break down that sideline, Boise State ended up having a good angle, and there was really nowhere else to go. Keeps his eyes downfield, and Desmond Roebuck says, hey, I got this. See if the ball comes out late or not. Yeah, that's a touchdown. Yeah, well, Josh Allen is Josh Allen. He's in a category all by himself. You know what I'm saying? It's like all the other elite teams, have offense and defense, except the Buffalo Bills. Rams, offense and defense. Seahawks, offense and defense. Broncos and Pats, offense and defense, even though the Bronco offense at times stalls, but not in the fourth quarter with Bo Nix, right? And then obviously the Bills don't really have a defense, but they do have Josh Allen and James Cook. Extra point is up and good. Here we go. Dogs, 17-3 Huskies. Let's go. Hell yeah. Let's see if the Boise State Broncos can get a field goal or a touchdown before half, so that way this one doesn't get out of hand. Yeah, Roebuck has been good. He's made some pretty big plays, as far as a freshman is concerned. Agreed. (17-3) Huskies. There he is. What a stud. But we got a few intriguing matchups tomorrow. Browns, Bears isn't one of them. Ravens, Bengals will be competitive. Chargers, Chiefs could be competitive. Bills, Patriots is going to be the best morning game. Commanders and Giants. Raiders and Eagles. Jets and Jags. Cardinals and Texans. Packers, Broncos will be competitive. Rams and Lions will be competitive. Panthers, Saints, Titans, Niners, Colts, Seahawks, and then we'll be doing Vikings, Cowboys on Sunday night here on the channel, and then Dolphins and Steelers on Monday night. But next Thursday will be the Rams and the Seahawks. I'm really looking forward to that. So I'll be watching Bills, Patriots in the morning, and then I will be watching Packers, Broncos, Lions, Rams in the afternoon. So those will be the three games that I'll be watching pretty much in entirety, and until we get settled in for Sunday night football and Monday night. Matchups could be a little bit better, for Sunday and Monday night games. But, again, sometimes you got to be able to give some of those other teams a little bit of love during the schedule. And then once we get, towards the back end, we've already had a few get switched out, and they're going to try to make the matchups a little bit more entertaining, especially when we get towards the last couple weeks of the regular season. Yeah, I figured that Riley would be a little bit more effective against this Husky defense, but hasn't been able to get loose just yet. And 65-yard kickoff turns into a touchback. Yeah, and there's a couple, matchups there, but unfortunately that's going to be around the same time as Oregon and JMU. So realistically, I'll probably end up doing that, game, but if there, is a reason, whatever, that I decide to go for the NFL game, there is 2 games, next Saturday that we could potentially do on the channel as well. So I'll be watching multiple games on that day anyways. 5-yard penalty there by Zach Holmes on the false start. The center. First down and 15 at the Boise State 20. Yeah, I like it when we have a few games on Saturday for, the NFL. Gives us another option, other than just college football. Shotgun set on first down and 15. Maddox Madsen looking, tipped. Oh, how is that not picked? Incomplete. Intended tight end is Matt Lauder. Husky defense has been pretty good up to this point. I mean, with Josh Allen, if they end up making it, to the Super Bowl, it's obviously going to be offensive, domination at that point if they're able to do it. But normally you don't really see a team with no defense make the Super Bowl. So, and obviously that's good for, fans of the Patriots and the Broncos. And intercepted. Wow. Stupid throw by Maddox Madsen. He might get cut after that throw. Unbelievable. Why would you throw that up there? 500 ball. Unbelievable. Well, every Boise State Bronco fan just turned the game off. I don't know what the hell that was. Yeah, take the sack lunch or throw it away. Why just throw a 500 ball up? It's like, playing Nerf 500 in the backyard with your friends. Like, who the hell are you throwing to right there? Terrible throw. Maddox Madsen is too good of a quarterback for that type of play, period. Let's see if the Huskies can pour it on here. Rashawn Clark, the safety, with the big interception. Let's go, baby. It's all about the Pac-12, now Big Ten. Shotgun set. They bring everyone. Damon Williams keeping his eyes downfield. Perfect catch. Spin move at the sideline. First down, Huskies. Now they're just playing with them. TJ in the building. What's good? What's good, brother? They look great today, man. Again, it started off all defense. And again, the Huskies are, starting to pour it on, which is exactly what I wanted to see. And again, I know some Husky fans wish that they were in more of a relevant bowl game. But again, finishing the year off strong in, the last game, I don't care who you are, it's always a good thing. Jonah Coleman, stiff arm. Let's go. Let's go. Jonah Coleman almost getting a touchdown. Give it to him again. Give it to him again. First and goal at the Boise State 3. 14-yard run, a stiff arm, and look at him. Cuts back. Look at the juke. Get off me, little man. Go back to preschool. Beautiful run. Give it back to Jonah Coleman, baby. All day in the building. What's good? Yeah, 2 years for $40 million, though, for Polo going to the Mets. That's too rich for our blood. He's worth $10 to $15 million a year, not $20 million a year. Touchdown, Huskies. Raiden Vines Bright, bang, 23-3 Huskies. Let's go. But again, I wish the best for Polo, but, he wanted to be close to his dad who lives in New York. He switched agents, had Julio's agent, and, for a Polo, 2 years for $40 million, that's a lot, for a guy that is kind of inconsistent at times. So I wish him the best, but again, they're going to have him play first base potentially, and I don't think he can play that position. And they've already lost Pete Alonso, Edwin Diaz, and a few others. So the Mets had some money to spend, but, I don't think we're going to get Gino to come back. That's probably too rich for our blood, but again, Ben Williamson and Colt Emerson, at third. Colt can also play, second or short. You got Cole Young, you got Ben Williamson, you got Colt Emerson. We still got JP at short. So, we'll see where it goes. We made a couple, minor moves here and there. Nothing really too crazy. Picked up another backup catcher a couple days ago. Kind of a value deal and whatnot. And obviously traded Harry Ford away to get a lefty. Jose there, obviously in the pen, which is great because that's what we needed. And then we'll find out, as the offseason continues to progress, if we can end up adding a few other decent names or kind of lower name guys that are value guys that end up being a perfect fit for the Mariners. Extra point was up and good. 24-3 Huskies. All the Boise State fans just left. They turned the game off. They started punching the wall, thinking that they were actually going to hang with the Huskies today. Not so fast. You might have been 9-4 and you won your division, but it shows you how good the Big Ten is. Washington finished in like 6th, 7th place in the Big Ten, and they were able to stomp a team that ended up being number 1 in the Mountain West. I'm just saying, again, it's nice to be able to be number 1, in a certain division, but these two teams are not created equal. Facts. 24-3 Huskies. I see you, dogs. Polo didn't get traded. It was, he was just, available. $24-3, and in just a blink of an eye, it was 3-3 and 21 unanswered. And then a run towards the sideline. Madsen there. I don't know if you can make up for that terrible interception that he just had. Hell, even Ashton Genty wouldn't get him back in this game. You might be able to score a touchdown with him or two, but you're not catching up. 4-yard run there by Maddox Madsen. Leroy Bryant running him out of bounds. 2nd down and 6 at the Boise State 29. Damn right, Sarah. Big Ten is the best. SEC used to be king for a long time. Not anymore. Uh-oh, it's 12 noon. You know what time it is. Time for a Husky sack lunch. Yum, 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 yum. Let's go. Davis with the big sack lunch. Squeeze it, Pop-Tarts, kudos bars, all of the above. Beautiful. 3rd down and 10 at the Boise State 25. Timeout, Washington. Yep. But again, 2 years, $40 million is too much, for him. Like, that's like Josh Naylor type of money. Naylor is worth $20-25 million a year. Polo's worth $10 to $15 million a year. And again, if we would have signed Polo for 2 years, $40 million, the Mariner fan base, half of them that don't understand money, would have said, "Oh, this is great." And then the people that actually understand the business would have said, "Damn, we overpaid. Like, we fucked up." Because again, we appreciated what he did at the beginning of the year, and especially in that Tiger series. But he didn't really do a whole lot against the Blue Jays. And again, as far as consistency, for a guy, that's going to get $20 million a year that can't play defense, it's like if he was a two-way player and he was good at offense and defense, then, maybe, 18 million or something like that per year. But for a guy that can really only DH or play, just offense, But again, the Mets lost too many pieces. They had some extra money since a few of their studs ended up leaving. And a pass batted down. Maddox Madsen having a hard day here. 4th down and 10 with 1:01 left. Let's see if the Huskies can score another field goal or touchdown before half. And the Broncos with the punt. Roebuck is there, and fair caught. I don't think Maddox Madsen is garbage. He's just looking like garbage today, but normally he doesn't look this bad. I mean, if you've actually watched him, for Boise State, but again, when you're going against Mountain West competition, of course you're going to look amazing. But then when you actually go against a team in the Big Ten, and it doesn't even have to be, one of the, top spots, you got to remember with the, addition of Washington and Oregon and USC and UCLA, as you look at the Big Ten, it's like almost 20 teams. So even if you end up finishing in like 6th or 7th, that doesn't mean that your team is garbage. Obviously, you're still pretty solid, even with 4 losses in the Big Ten. And obviously you got, Iowa and Washington kind of in that same mix right there. Steege there with the tackle. Demond Williams Jr. to Omari Evans. No yards and no gain. Shotgun set on 2nd down and 10. Pressure off the edge. Demond Williams towards the sideline. And pushed out of bounds. Ten-yard pass to Omari Evans. First down, Dogs. Move the chains. Now, if Boise State was playing another team in the Mountain West, Madsen would probably already have 2 touchdowns by now. I don't know if they would have 24 points like the Huskies, but it wouldn't be this lopsided. Demond Williams, floater, and incomplete. Intended receiver was Denzel Boston, who is very nice. Phelps had some coverage there on him. 24 seconds left with a 24-3 Husky lead. It was a 3-3 game, after the first quarter, but 21 unanswered by the Huskies, and a couple bad plays by the Boise State offense turned into points for the Huskies. Edwin Diaz to the Dodgers. That's not fair. I mean, Jesus Christ, their team is already deep, and now they get one of the top 5 closers. And then obviously Alonso took the money to go to the Orioles, making that team better. And there was a few other starters they lost as well. And Vines Bright with the catch, but there's a flag on the play, maybe holding on the Husky O-line. Oh, false start. Illegal motion. Illegal formation. $17-yard pass from Demond Williams Jr. to Raiden Vines Bright. First down, Huskies. Let's go. Flag before the snap here again. What's going on? What do we got on this flag? False start after the illegal formation. Yeah, but you also, if you look at the roster, right, who did they lose, right? Corbin Burns, their, number 1 pitcher, right? That definitely is not going to be easy to replace. And they lost Anthony Santander, right? So when you lose, 2 of your best players, again, you're not able to recover. Even with Rushman and Gunner, it's like you still had some pieces left, but when you end up losing, a guy that can hit 30 to 50 home runs when he was healthy, in Santander, and a guy that can get you 10 to 15 wins in Corbin Burns, you're not able to recover from that. That's why they ended up going backwards. And we are at halftime, 24-3 Dogs. Let's go. Let me know what you want to do photo-wise, Sarah and Reflect. If there's anything that you guys want to see as we, obviously in the NFL, halftime's about 12 minutes. I believe this one will be closer to 20, So again, anything that you guys want to do to pass the time, Sarah, Reflect, let me know, and I got you. $88 yards total for Boise State. Wow. Three tutties for Demond Williams. Let's go. I got you. Can't wait to see a lefty in the bullpen that actually is reliable. Gabe Spire. Yeah, even though I love me some Gabe, it's going to be nice to have Jose as another lefty. And hopefully we'll be able to get our lefty, from the draft Cade Anderson in the starting lineup, or a part of the rotation at some point as well. Love me some lefties, starters or bullpen. And obviously the number one thing that we need to improve on is bullpen. We'll get some Fernando Mendoza in there as well. And some Colt Emerson. I got you. TJ with the tour. Appreciate you. TJ, let me know if there's anything you want to see photo-wise. Every dollar counts, my guy. Appreciate you. TJ with a tour, and he's done a fantastic job. Anytime that he's available to come in to kind of help us ride the ship with the likes and whatnot and just the overall vibe of the channel, we're very happy to have you. Stacks, racks with a little Cactus Jack. Bang, bang. It's great to be able to have loyalty. Appreciate you. And I can't wait for baseball season. I feel like I've been saying that since Game 7 ended. And potentially Colt could end up being the best one, better than Ben Williamson, better than Cole Young. I think that he has the potential to be the best one. So, and again, he can play second, shortstop, or third base. So, even though we got Ben Williamson that we normally, think of at third, since we don't have Gino at the moment. So, but we will see. I mean, it was a landslide. Everyone knew he was going to win it. It wasn't even close. Jeremiah Love only getting 46 votes is a disgrace. I mean, if you actually looked at Jeremiah Love's numbers as a running back, I don't know if it's just because he was on Notre Dame and they decided to, not participate in a bowl game, but Love probably should have been second on the Heisman voting, but, Navy 17, Army 16, coming back after being down in the first half. Nice job. These photos are not as crispy as I would like. I'm trying to find something a little bit more. The HD 4K, whatnot. Some of them are converting, some are not.
We will take a look at the FCS quarterfinal games when we come back. This halftime report is presented by KFC's logo.
So congratulations to Fernando Mendoza winning the Heisman just a few hours ago. Yeah, Cam won the Heisman. That actually was, a year where, it was Cam Newton, Andrew Luck, and LaMichael James. Again, that's a lot more talent than what you're seeing in this year. I feel like this year's Heisman was kind of one of the weakest. Like, you already knew that Mendoza was going to win, and nobody had a chance. None of the other three had a chance. Like, it was already, when Indiana ended up winning, even if they would have lost to Ohio State, I still think he would have won, but obviously winning that game propelled him, to automatic victory to be able to get that award. So, no, Boise State has zero chance of coming back. Zero. They might be able to get to 17 to 20 if they're lucky, but based on how they've been playing, it's probably more likely they'll be at like 13 or less, unless things really start getting ramped up, or if the Huskies, have some, blown coverages or injuries on defense. But, I don't think Washington's at 24. They're pacing for 48, but realistically we'll probably have somewhere in the, mid to high 30s. And then again, I don't see Boise State, getting the very most they could get is get to maybe 20, but I don't know if they can get 17 after they only put up 3, based on what Maddox Madsen was doing in that first half. So. All right, 31 likes, 69 to goal. Let's go, baby. TJ, anything that you want photo-wise that you want to showcase? Favorite player on the Mariners? Anything that you want to be able to show? Yeah, Brooks is coming out with his own, kind of like beat album that's mixed and mastered on January 1st, 2026. And he's going by another moniker, Paradigm. So again, he has hundreds of beats and whatnot, but he's going to kind of, condense it, I think, into kind of like an album of like 12 to 15, and some of the music he let me listen to isn't anything that I have access to at the moment. So it'll be on Spotify, and we'll see, how things go. And again, this is only the beginning for him. And I imagine, once he ends up doing that, he'll continue to try to network with other producers and whatnot. And definitely excited for him to, keep it moving. But I got a chance to kind of get a sneak peek, on some of the stuff. And there's at least 2 or 3 tracks out of like the 12 that, that I listened to that I never heard before and whatnot. And it definitely is his style. And there's definitely going to be some beats that are on here that may not be, on the album, but he's trying to do it based on his personality and his style, for that particular, album and whatnot, even though he has the ability to make music, that sounds like, other artists, like, oh, this is a Jay-Z track, or, oh, this is a Dr. Dre, or this is Outkast, or, this is Mystical, or this is a Drake track, so pretty cool. And I'll continue to keep supporting him. And it's just always great to be able to see, friends that have dreams and goals, and, continue to believe that if you keep working hard, good things will happen. Good choice. I got you. I'll do both. And I got to get Sarah with the Tyler Warren from before. I got a new Tyler Warren, so we want to make sure we do that for Sarah as well. So let me get those 3. And then hopefully after getting photos of a few of these players in the NFL and college football, we'll be back into the action. I'm glad you're in the room, so that way when we bring it up, you're able to see those. A little Jake Browning action. All right, Huskies get the second half kick, so it looks like we're finally done with halftime. I'm still gonna squeeze a few more photos in. Browning was a dog. Look at him. He's like, you can't guard me. Not today, not tomorrow, not ever. Let's see if we get a couple Michael Penix Jr. photos, and then we'll be on our way. I mean, it's crazy, like, you know, when you go in certain years, you know, where you have, you know, Jaden Daniels, Bo Nix, and Michael Penix Jr., and then you look at the quarterbacks, you know, this year, you know, it's kind of a, you know, not really the same, right? Like, you know, there's a few guys, but it's like, if Fernando Mendoza goes to the Raiders or the Jets, do you really believe that he can turn those organizations around? You know, like, he won the Heisman, but I don't really know how good of a pro he's going to be. You know, he doesn't seem as polished as Jaden Daniels or Bo Nix, you know, coming out of college and whatnot. Like, it's awesome, you know, that Indiana won the Big Ten, and they do have one of the top chances of going all the way. But I just don't know if it's going to translate to being, you know, a good NFL player, you know, like a Jaden Daniels or like a Bo Nix. And obviously with Michael Penix Jr., injuries have derailed his career, and that's been like that, you know, since high school. But hopefully he'll get to a point where he can stay healthy and, you know, help the Falcons win games like Kirk Cousins did against my Bucks a couple days ago. One of the worst losses that I've seen. And, you know, hopefully they fire Todd Bowles and everyone on the staff, because that was unacceptable. But you know what is acceptable? Michael Penix Jr., he was a dog. Go Ducks. Custom Mamba stitched on the back for the Black Mamba. I mean, it sucks though, because I have a lot. I don't own any yellow jerseys, but I love green apple. And unfortunately, when you have a green screen, anything that you have that's like typically green or yellow, it's going to get distorted, and I can't, you know, wear it. So I got like Justin Herbert jerseys, Bo Nix jerseys. You know, I got, you know, sewn, very limited edition Nike 2001 Joey Harrington jersey. Like, I got a lot of, you know, stuff, you know, chains and glow in the dark chains that change color. Like, I got a lot of stuff that I own that I would love to be able to kind of showcase on the channel. But unfortunately, with the green screen, I'm not able to do that, you know, unless I was able to do like some kind of, you know, like selfie for the game or on my socials or something. But you know, but like I said, I got a lot of merch in the closet, and I'm only able to, you know, show a percentage of what I have. Just, you know, Carlton, Oregon, let's go. Yeah, but like I said, I got the Bo Nix and the Justin Herbert green apple sewn jersey, clean. My favorite two jerseys probably though are the Natty LaMichael James sewn jersey against Auburn. I got the patch and I got the name sewn on the back, you know, since they normally don't come that way. And then I ended up finding a vintage sewn Nike Joey Harrington jersey, white, which is extremely rare. It's probably worth like $200 to $300, and I got it for like $30 from a guy in like Ohio, which he didn't know what he had, and obviously he probably found it out of like a storage locker. But again, the green one is super, I wouldn't say pretty rare as well, but the white one is almost impossible to find. And you know, I love those ones, probably at my top tier, but I got quite a few in the closet that I would love to be able to rock. Odin in the building. What's good? All right, first down and 10 here for the Huskies. But I got this amazing glow-in-the-dark chain, but unfortunately with all the lighting that I have to have, you can see it in like normal, conditions, and in the dark it really pops. And it has like 8 or 9 different colors. I pretty much just wanted to get it for the green or the yellow, the main colors, but unfortunately it doesn't show up on stream. But I might end up giving it to one of my buddies as a gift, or I might just hang on to it. Dan Lanning is going to have the team coached up, so it might be close in the first half, but I assume that we will pull away in the second half. Texas Tech will be harder because we'll have to play at 9 a.m., and sometimes when you play that early, there's a chance of an upset. But, we have a path: JMU, Texas Tech, Indiana, and then playing Georgia or Ohio State in the Natty. So, I like our chances. Third down and 6 for the Huskies. 24-3 Dogs. All right, let's see what Damon Williams Jr. can do here. 24-3 Huskies. And Damon stepping up in the pocket. Look at the speed. Wow. First down, Huskies. Move the chains. Fun player to watch. Nice job by Damon Williams Jr., the Kyler Murray of college football. Same body frame, same speed, great arm, like Kyler when he's healthy. Obviously that's kind of the main thing. Kyler is undersized and, definitely gets injured quite a bit. But, when Kyler is healthy, just like Damon Williams Jr., when they're healthy, they are a true threat. Damon Williams Jr. going deep and incomplete. Second down and 10 here for the Huskies. Odin, what's good, brother? How are you? The Cena match was good. Hand off to Jonah Coleman. Breaks the tackle. Breaks the second. Spin move. Breaks him. Go, baby, go! Oh, my God. How many ankles were broken on that play? Oh, my goodness. First down, Huskies. That was beautiful. Jonah Coleman, my goodness. Look at the blocking up front here by the O-line. Wow. That was amazing. All good, Juan. Take care. Go Ducks. I'll be doing the Duck matchup against JMU, so be here if you can. And Damon Williams Jr., floater, touchdown, Huskies! Wow! 4th touchdown pass by Damon Williams Jr., and that was fucking pretty. Whoa! Quentin Moore, 32 yards. Boise State Bronco fans, they have left the chat. They have turned the game off. They are definitely watching something other than this game. Wow. Go Dogs. He got a penalty for the spike there at the end. Yeah, and if you're going to spike the football, you probably shouldn't be staring at the ref while you do it. But he got super excited. He's like, this might be the only time I ever get one. Unsportsmanlike after that spike right in front of the ref. But again, excitement sometimes takes over in sports, right? As long as you're not spiking it on top of another player against, on the opposing team. Extra point is up and good, but we got whistles on the play. Flag out. False start on the Huskies. I mean, it was 3-3 after the first quarter, and then the Huskies took over. and again, Mountain West, Boise State Broncos went 9-4, first place. The Huskies were like 6th, in the Big Ten. So it shows you, Mountain West is nowhere near the same kind of competition as the Big Ten. Even when you go into the middle of the conference, there's a lot of talent there. Extra point is up after the penalty of the false start, right down the middle, and it's good. And I love being able to see Pacific Northwest teams like the Huskies and the Ducks do well. Awesome. Go Dogs. Beautiful throw. Beautiful catch. Let's go, baby. Michael Penix Jr. would be proud. He's watching right now. Like, sub, donate, comment, share. If you haven't smashed that like button yet, please do. Help us get to 100 likes, 100 on that dono train. And 5 to 15 subs. Let's get it, baby. Gained another sub since the last commercial break. Appreciate you. 91 subs to go to 23,400. Let's get it, baby, in the bucked up LA Bowl. Boise State Broncos 3, Washington Huskies 30. I mean, even though, Idaho is kind of close, with like Montana and, those neighboring states, Pacific Northwest, I guess Northwest is only going to be Oregon and Washington, even though, the Idaho Vandals and the Boise State Broncos are close, but that's, kind of separate. So at least it is to me. $31-3 after that extra point was up and good. I see you, Damon Williams, Jr., Jonah Coleman, Denzel Boston. Everyone getting in on the action. Roebuck. Love it. Shout out to my boy Brooks Beats with the best beats on YouTube. Let's see here. Damon Williams, 14 for 20, 4 touchdown passes. Is that good? Compared to Madsen, who's got 7 for 16 and 2 picks. Nowhere near in the same stratosphere. And we'll be doing the Vikings and Cowboys tomorrow on Sunday night. Dolphins and Steelers on Monday night. And then the game I'm really looking forward to is the Rams and Seahawks next Thursday. It's going to be fucking lit. Such a great rivalry. Even though it's been the Hawks and the Niners for years and years and years, now it's going to transition into, you're still going to have that rivalry because the Niners aren't going anywhere as long as they have Shanahan and Saleh. But now, with the Rams and Seahawks being the 2 best teams in the NFC at the moment, a lot on the line on Thursday. I can't wait. It's going to be the best matchup on Thursday Night Football the whole year. Both teams could go to the NFC Championship game, and one of those teams could make it to the Super Bowl this year. Very possible. And then you got the second tier of the Eagles and the Packers and the Lions and the Bears and the Niners. We won't really include the Buccaneers or the Panthers, obviously, but... I remember that little hook and ladder. A little trick play. Boise State beating Oklahoma. 43-42. That was one of the best college, bowl games in a long, long time. That was an amazing game. I remember watching that game live. First down and 10 here for Madsen. Or do they have another quarterback in here now? I think they're going to go with a different quarterback here. Dylan Riley with a 3-yard run. Second down and 7 at the Bronco 12. Shotgun set, 5 wide receiver set, empty back, and pass into the turf, incomplete. Receiver is down. Hopefully he's okay. Roughing the passer. 15-yard penalty on Jacob Manu. First down and 10 at the Boise State 27, which kind of feels like the only way they can actually move the football in positive yardage is with penalties, which is not ideal. Oh, yeah. I mean, got him on the shoulder. I don't know if that really deserves a penalty, but one thing Boise State does have is fire helmets with the number on one side and the big Bronco logo on the other. Uh-oh, it's 12 noon. You know what time it is. Time for a sack lunch. Yum, 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 yum. And the Huskies are dominating. 3 Huskies right there for the sack lunch. My goodness. And I love it when Pacific Northwest teams do well. Nothing makes me happier. We already know with the Beavers and Cougs, they're not on the same level as the Huskies and the Ducks. And, obviously when our teams go against each other, you know who I'm rooting for. But when we're not, I'm going to be rooting for the Huskies to win every single game they play. And it's the only team that I watch in the Pacific Northwest every game, from beginning to end. And not very many Oregon fans can say that. Shotgun set, trips left, man in motion. And a nice little screen there to Lauder. 14-yard pass. Third down and 4 at the Boise State 33. Now you're getting to a point where you kind of feel sorry for Boise State. Like, can we get, at least a touchdown before the game is over? I mean, that's kind of the feeling here. It's like, you're not coming back. Hell, you might not even get to fucking 20, but it would be nice to see them get, at least a touchdown and a couple field goals before this one's over, if possible. Madsen, tipped and complete. Chris Marshall, the intended receiver. 4th down and 4 at the Boise State 33. Yeah, that's always going to be a tough thing, going through the holidays and whatnot. But, he's smiling down on you. There's no doubt about that. And we'll see if he'll have a Steeler performance that, he would be proud of on Monday night against the Dolphins. Oscar Doyle with the punt. And fair caught by Roebuck. First down and 10 at the Husky 28. All right, 32 on the dono train, 68 to go. Jake Browning is watching. He loves it. Michael Penix Jr., he's watching. He loves it. 31-3 Huskies. I mean, hell, if Damon Williams Jr. plays this whole game, hell, he might have like 7 fucking touchdown passes, by the time it's over, if they keep him in for this whole game. Again, they can obviously go to the running game and, get Jonah Coleman in the end zone and, try to get some of their running backs. But my goodness, what a performance. He's already got 4 tutties, 14 for 20. And with the amount of time that's left, if they were to throw the ball, kind of feels like he could get to 7 or 8 touchdown passes, but you would have to assume one of the touchdowns, between now and the end of the game, which should be a rushing touchdown. At least you would assume that, right? And then, he might be able to get, 1 or 2 more through the air, but he's already at 4. Would be nice for him to get to like 6 or more, though. It would definitely look amazing on the stat sheet. So, Sarah, did you watch all of Saturday night for WWE? I know Odin came in here a few minutes back, and I know he watched it. I might have to watch the replay. We're getting down to the nitty-gritty of the college football and NFL season. And then I was actually noticing, the first chance that you get to watch some kind of baseball, it's coming a little bit sooner than people think. I think it's like February 20th is like you're starting to get some of the spring training. Now, some of these things are not going to be televised, but you're starting to get some of those spring training games as early as like February 20, which is a little shocking, right? So, once we get football over, we'll be dipping into MLB, and I can't wait. I love me some college football. I love me some NFL. But again, we love the Mariners. 5-yard run there by Adam Muhammad, who absolutely was amazing against the Ducks. And hopefully we'll be able to see Muhammad and Jonah Coleman hit pay dirt before this one is over. Adam Muhammad and Roebuck are very nice. 2nd down and 5. Williams bouncing it to the outside. Look at the speed. 1st down, Huskies. Move the chains. Shotgun set on 1st down and 10. And Muhammad, minimal gain. And hopefully Jed Fish doesn't leave the Huskies and go to Michigan. I hope he stays there for the Huskies and continues to build the program. And I'm really hoping that Dan Lanning ends up staying in Oregon until he's old and gray. And it sounds like we have a good chance for that to actually happen, which in college sports, there's not really a whole lot of loyalty from coaches and players, but Dan might be the, kind of changing the trend of things. And I love that. Nice footwork by Damon Jr. And throws it out of bounds, incomplete. All right, Damon Williams Jr. was hurried by Nordiani. 3rd down and 9 at the Washington 40. Notriani was all over the place in the 1st quarter and a little bit there in the 2nd quarter, but we haven't heard his name as often. And again, one player doesn't make a defense, even though he did, in the 1st quarter, making it 3-3 and being everywhere. Huskies have definitely been pouring it on. Go Dogs. Shotgun set, trips left. Damon Williams steps up in the pocket. Uh-oh. It's 12 noon. You know what time it is? Time for a sack lunch. Yum, 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 yum. Phelps with the sack lunch there. And that's going to be now 4th down and 16 at the Washington 33. mean, shit, if I can get Dan Lanning to stay in Oregon for another 10, 20 years, it's inevitable that we're going to end up making a natty and we're going to win one, based on his recruiting and everything that we have going for our program. So, I need to have that happen at least once. And I got to get the Mariners to win a pennant. That will actually make me happier than the Ducks winning a natty, even though they're both at the very top of my priority list. But for me, it would be Mariners 1 and then Ducks 2, just because, hell, the Mariners have never even been to a World Series. We almost got there this year. It took us to ALCS Game 7, and, we're going in the right direction. We know the Ducks have been to a couple natties within the last 25 years, but, haven't had a team good enough. Besides that team in 2010, when we played Cam Newton, we should have won that one. But the one against Ohio State later with Mariota, we had no chance. 11-yard return there by Malik Sherrod. First down and 10 at the Bronco 33. Play action. First down, Broncos. Move the chains. Max Cutforth in the game for the Broncos. Chris Marshall with that 17-yard catch. First down and 10 at the 50. But we're going in the right direction. So, I mean, that's the best, part about it. It's like, we're going to make moves at the deadline, and at least we know, like, the ownership and everyone is in. They're not going to just try to do 54%, effort like they did in the past. Like, we are really going to be gunning for a World Series title in the next 5 years and beyond. That's exciting. Steps up in the pocket. Uh-oh. 12 noon. You know what time it is. Time for a Husky sack lunch. Yum, 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 yum. And Madsen is out. He's no longer in the game. Max Cutforth is in the game for the Broncos. Third down and 11 at the Boise State 49. About 5 minutes left in the third quarter. The Huskies stomping the Broncos. Screen pass by Cutforth. And they're at least able to move the football slightly with Cutforth at quarterback, which is surprising. But and now it's going to be 4th down and 5 after that screen to Chase Penry. 4th down and 5 at the Washington 45. And when you're down by 28, you're probably going to go for it. No chance, right? You got to go for it. Oh for 1 on 4th down so far. Man in motion for Cutforth. And that's offsides on the Huskies. Automatic first down, Broncos. Deshaun Lynch went offsides. I mean, when you have to get penalty or you have to get positive yardage off penalties, I guess you'll take it any way that, you can spin it. No, he just played terrible. I mean, unless you think 7 for 16 and 2 picks is good, but he got benched. And, again, he does well against, Mountain West competition. But last time I checked, this ain't Mountain West competition. This is the Big Ten. The best conference in football. Even when you're 6th or 7th in the Big Ten, you're better than the number 1 team in the Mountain West, and by a lot. Pass incomplete to Chase Penry. 2nd down and 10 at the Washington 40. Crazy, a 9-4 Mountain West team that was number 1 in the conference can't even put up a touchdown on the 6th ranked team in the Big Ten, but that's how it goes. It was 3-3 after the first quarter, though. So, I mean, I got to give them a little bit of credit early. And then just Damon Williams just went off, channeled in his inner Kyler Murray, and they haven't looked back. Screen pass. And Sherrod there with the short game. A 4-yard pass by Max Cutforth to Malik Sherrod. 3rd down and 6 at the Husky 36. Shotgun set, and Sherrod rushes up the middle for a yard. Alinius Davis, the D lineman there for the Huskies with the tackle. Solid. 4th down and 5 at the Husky 35, and you got to go for it again, right? You're down 28. You're not coming back in this game, but at least you can play for pride and try to get to at least 17, before the game is over. And if the Huskies go with a run approach in the 4th, they may not even hit 40, just trying to bleed the clock. But 4th down and 5. 5 wide receiver set. Shotgun set. Marshall is there. And 1st down, Broncos. A little soft zone by the Huskies. 13-yard pass from Max Cutforth, the backup quarterback for Boise State, to Chris Marshall. 1st down, Broncos. Move the chains. We're in the fucked up LA Bowl, 31-3, Dogs. And it feels like Chris Marshall might be the guy that gets them in the end zone if he can get a few more looks. Shotgun set. And complete to Chase Penry. Second down and 10 at the Husky 22. I mean, I might be a Duck fan, but I love seeing the Huskies stomp other teams, as long as you're not stomping us every time, I love it. And Gaines up the middle. And the thing about the Huskies, too, I like is they don't quit. Like when you end up seeing them, no matter what, they're going to be flying around. And it's also going to be good to be able to see some of the younger guys get a little bit of time in the 4th quarter as well. Sire Gaines with a 1-yard run there for the Boise State Broncos. 3rd down and 9 at the Husky 21. Yeah, and normally Boise State can run the ball pretty easily. I mean, it's not going to be like Ashton Genty type of running, but shotgun set, throw to that right side this time. And Penry out of bounds on that 4-yard pass from Max Cutforth, the backup QB. And again, 4th down and 5 for the 3rd time on this drive. Let's see if the Huskies can get a stop or if they're going to continue moving the chains. I mean, if I'm Cutforth, I'm probably going to Lauder, the tight end, but let's see what they decide to do. Oh, looks like he did get injured. Madsen did get hurt. I thought they just benched him based off poor play, but he got hurt on top of that. What insult to injury, right? You play like shit and you get hurt and you're down 28. That's brutal. Pass incomplete. And Chris Marshall ends up stopping on that last play. Turnover on downs. And we got about a minute left in the 3rd quarter. Huskies up by 28. As we go to a commercial break, timeout, Boise State. Yeah, and that's why they didn't report the injury, because it happened right before half, and then they didn't disclose any of that information at halftime until they ended up showing a close-up of Madsen and then obviously in a boot. So would have been nice to know that information earlier, but, it is what it is. 31-3 Dogs. And I kind of like the fact that even though this is like hosted by Gronk, we're not seeing Gronk every 3 minutes. Like they definitely could have made it like last year where, maybe you're seeing the guest a little bit too much. So it's like, it's one thing when you have a certain individual that you want to link a bowl game to, but I'm kind of happy that, we're not getting a, crazy amount of Gronk, even though obviously we know Gronk, can be an entertaining, individual, obviously more entertaining on the field than he is on the mic, but you know what I mean. Minnie in the building. What's good? How are you? How was work? Freezing the buns. Super cold out there in Canada, eh? Good to see you, Minnie. We'll be doing Vikings and Cowboys tomorrow on stream, Dolphins and Steelers on Monday, and then I'm really looking forward to Thursday with the Rams and the Seahawks, probably the game of the year. That's going to be incredible. I got some friends that will probably be going to that game, and it is going to be in a crazy environment in Seattle. (31-3). And the crazy thing in this game, it was 3-3 after the first quarter, and then Washington just exploded. So again, Damon Williams Jr. is kind of like a Kyler Murray of college football, and has been very, very dominant. And defense has played well in the first quarter for both teams, but 14 for 21, 4 tutties for Damon Williams Jr. And again, we haven't got to see Adam Muhammad or Jonah Coleman hit the end zone yet, but hopefully we'll get at least one of those guys to hit a touchdown celebration before this one's all over. What's the weather like out there, Minnie? Is it snowing? Is it just below freezing? What kind of weather you guys got out there today? Bouncing it out to the outside. And Jordan Washington there with a short gain. RB number 3. Long Beach. No gain. Second down and 10 at the Husky 17. About 30 seconds left here in the third quarter. Huskies giving the Broncos a pounding and some. Shotgun set. Blitz off the edge. And Williams falls down. It's 12 noon. You know what time it is? Time for a sack lunch. Yum, 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 yum. And that's going to be the end of the third quarter. 31-3 Huskies. Like, sub, donate, comment, share. If you haven't smashed that like button yet, please do. Help us get to 100 likes, 100 on that dono train. And 5 to 15 subs. Let's get it, baby. Shout out to my boy Brooks Beats with the best beats on YouTube. Got some good matchups tomorrow in the NFL. I'll be waking up early to watch Bills and Patriots on CBS. Yes, please. We got some good afternoon games with the Packers and Broncos, Lions and Rams. I'll be watching both of those. And once those are all finished, we'll be doing Vikings and Cowboys here for Sunday Night Football, and then the Dolphins and the Steelers on Monday night. Obviously, you would want better matchups. Having Packers, Broncos on Sunday night, or even the Patriots and the Bills would have been better and whatnot. Hell, even Lions, Rams would have been better than some of those other matchups. But I do think Vikings, Cowboys is going to be pretty good. They're actually kind of evenly matched. And then the same thing with the Dolphins and the Steelers. They're kind of evenly matched. They're not really that good. Either of the Cowboys are, up and down, and you don't really know what you're going to get out of Minnesota. One week Minnesota gets, beaten by like 50, and then the next week they can win by 20. So you don't really know what version you're going to get. Same thing with the Dolphins and the Steelers. Like, what version of the Steelers and the Dolphins are you going to get? And we obviously know TJ Watt had to go to the hospital and he won't be playing. So it kind of feels like, even though those teams for the most part aren't the greatest, it might end up being somewhat entertaining football. At least we can hope for that. And then obviously when we get into Thursday, game of the year, Rams, Seahawks, Thursday Night Football, I'm definitely looking forward to that. It's going to get ugly. Seahawks are going to beat the shit out of the Colts. I mean, Phillip Rivers is going to get fucked up. He might get injured, in the game. First time playing in years, all the backups being injured. It is not going to be pretty. I would assume the Seahawks will have a very, very good chance of winning by, 10 points or more, but it could end up being a rout where they end up winning by 20 or more, especially if you end up getting interceptions, fumbles, 3 and outs. The two teams in the NFC are at the top, Rams and Seahawks. They have offense and defense. Same thing with the Broncos and the Patriots, offense and defense. Really, the only other team that might be Super Bowl worthy, that doesn't have a defense would be the Buffalo Bills, because they got a guy in Josh Allen who's in kind of a category of his own. But it is going to be ugly tomorrow, I would assume, for the Colts. So, but again, it would be ugly if they had Riley Leonard or AR. The only chance that they would have to win that game is if they had Danny Dimes and he was healthy. If he was healthy, then that game could go either way, based on how he's played this year. But, if you have to get a guy that's been retired, it could get really nasty. And Damon Williams Jr. going short right, avoids a sack lunch, barely, and incomplete, just throws it away. 4th down and 13 at the Husky 14, and now the Huskies will punt. Now, Cam Newton would be shitty too. I mean, if they really wanted, to have a chance, grabbing Joe Flacco, that would have been the best choice. Someone that's old, but, that still can play. That would have been the best choice. But, the Bengals aren't going to give that up, considering Burrow is kind of injury prone and they may need him. But that would have been their best choice. I would probably go Flacco 1 and then maybe Jameis Winston 2. But again, if you got a shitty attitude like Cam Newton, there's a reason why, people don't call you. If you carry yourself in a negative way, no one gives a shit about you or what you did, when you were playing, and I don't think he realizes that. What you do on the field also affects what you do off the field. And, if you kind of act like a douchebag off the field, you're not going to get any calls. So that's just being real. And we know when Cam was playing, he was one of the best quarterbacks. He won an MVP, but again, what you do off the field definitely will reflect your chances later, after your playing days are done. Cutforth incomplete, short right to Chris Marshall. 2nd down and 10 at the Boise State 47. Shotgun set, 4 wide receiver set, man in motion. And delay a game on the Boise State Broncos. He can't even get the snap off. Brutal. 5-yard penalty on the Boise State Broncos. Can Boise State even get a fucking field goal before this game is over? Normally we're like, okay, let's at least try to get them a touchdown, but I don't know if they can even move the football to get a touchdown. Their best chance might be a field goal before this one is over. And Boise State ended up winning the Mountain West at 9-4, going against like the 6th, 7th ranked team in the Big Ten in the Huskies. So it definitely shows you, how good Washington is, even at 6th, 7th spot in the Big Ten. There we go. 28-yard pass from Cutforth to Chris Marshall. First down, Broncos. Maybe they should start giving them points after first downs. And then that way they could get a little bit closer in this game. But one thing I will say, Boise State is consistent, on having an above 500 record regardless of coach. But, Mountain West is not the Big Ten. False start. All-time winning percentage in the FBS. Boise State is 1, Buckeyes are 2, Bama 3, Michigan 4, Notre Dame 5, Oklahoma 6, Texas 7, USC 8, Penn State 9, Nebraska 10. Trips left. Shotgun set. Pressure off the edge. Screen pass. Even Ashton Genty couldn't save this team at this point. At least if you had him, you might be able to get a rushing touchdown, with a talent like that. But, the crazy thing is the, Boise State Broncos actually have a couple guys that can run the football. At least they were able to do that against Mountain West competition, but, not against Big Ten and previous Pac-12 competition. We're in another category. Cutforth. Floater. Gaines with the catch. 3rd down and long. Shotgun set. 3rd down and 8 for Max Cutforth. At least Cutforth is able to move the football. Madsen wasn't able to do it at all. Floater. There we go. Big hit. Wow. First down, Broncos. Looks like they're finally going to score a touchdown. Unbelievable. It only took Boise State the 4th quarter. Latrell Caples from Max Cutforth, 22-yard pass. 1st and goal at the Husky 6. 1st and goal. Avoids a sack lunch. Throw it away. And he throws up a ball that's picked. Terrible throw. And Bryant with the pick in the end zone. Again, when you don't know what you're doing, it shows. Brutal. After having a couple nice throws, turns into the 3rd turnover for the Boise State Broncos. You just can't throw floaters, into double or triple coverage in the end zone. What are you doing? 2 Boise State players, 3 Huskies. Last time I checked, that math ain't mathin'. Nice interception there. And just when Boise State had it, and you're on the 6, run the fucking football. You're at the 6-yard line. Dummies. Nice job by the Husky defense. Timeout, Boise State. All right, let's see if Damon Williams can throw for another touchdown, or maybe we can get Muhammad or Jonah Coleman, or one of these other running backs in the end zone. But it's been a full offense, defense, special teams performance here, and it was 3-3 after the first quarter, but it's been all dogs since then. That's sad, man. They got it all the way to the 6-yard line with their backup quarterback, and they finally had something to smile about, to at least get to, 10, obviously. But, man, Huskies putting down a beatdown. But good for them, considering how it ended with Oregon, with Oregon winning. You don't want the Oregon loss to be the last thing that you remember from the 2025 Huskies. So this ass whooping that they're giving the Boise State Broncos, even though I'm a Duck fan, it makes me feel good. They're going to go to 9-4, by the time the season ends, and, winning a bowl game, even though it may not be the bowl game that they wanted, here in the fucked up LA Bowl, the last time that we're going to see this bowl. It's going to get canceled after this year, but a win is a win. And again, there's definitely a lot of people that tuned into this game, at least at some point, to be able to see Damon Williams, to be able to see Jonah Coleman, to be able to see Denzel Boston and this Husky defense. I see you, dogs. And that might have been the only good thing in the first quarter, when Notriani was going sideline to sideline, literally making every play, maybe besides one in the first quarter. That was impressive, but, 3-3 turning into 31-3. I see you, dogs. Jay Mills with a $5. Appreciate you. Happy holidays. Thank you so much. Stacks. Racks with a little Cactus Jack. Bang, bang. Another $5 on the Dono train. Appreciate you, my guy. You got a favorite player that you want me to showcase? Doesn't have to be college football. Let me know and I can showcase that before you go if you're leaving. Run of no yards there by Damon Williams Jr. Braxton Philly there with the tackle. Appreciate you, Jay Mills. Shotgun set. Williams steps up in the pocket. Little check down. Jonah Coleman is there. Uh-oh, fumble. Shit. And Jonah Coleman fumbles. Damn it. Should have went with Adam Muhammad instead. And the Boise State Broncos end up getting the turnover. First turnover of the day for the Washington Huskies, and it happens with 11:48 in the fourth quarter. Big fumble recovery there. Kaywood from behind. And then Rip with the recovery. Come on, Jonah. Jonah shouldn't play the rest of the game for that. Put in Muhammad. Muhammad ended up doing better than him anyways. Jonah's been hurt, towards the back end of the season and hasn't really been as productive. He was productive in the first part of the season before the injury, but ever since he got hurt and came back, not very productive. And Muhammad obviously did great against Oregon. Uh-oh, intercepted! Huskies! Go, baby, go! Block him! Block him! Go, baby, go! Run! Run! Go! Oh, he fell down. Jesus Christ. You could have had a pick six. Oh, the big man. Unbelievable. Turnover and a turnover. Whoa! Look at this throw. He didn't even see the player. Offensive lineman fell down. He's hanging onto the ball one-handed. Don't do that. And like, where are the blockers for him? Block for him. He's a big man. And the turf monster got him. That man in the building, what's good? Oh, JSN going to be putting in work. You already know that. That one is going to get ugly against Indianapolis. Back-to-back interceptions. I mean, at least we're getting some excitement here in the fourth quarter. Disappointed that Jonah Coleman fumbled, but again, they got the ball back on the next play. So, I mean, both quarterbacks suck today for Boise State. Let's be real. Shotgun set to Omari Evans, incomplete. Second and goal at the Boise State 9-yard line. Get Adam Muhammad in the game, damn it. Give him a chance. Come on, Omari. I feel like this is the weakest Heisman group maybe of all time. Again, like Fernando Mendoza, you already knew he was going to win. There was no chance for the other three, so I mean, considering we've had, other, Heisman opportunities when it was like Cam Newton, Andrew Luck, and LaMichael James, and you look at the names and, this year's, it's probably one of the weaker ones I've ever seen. Congratulations to Fernando Mendoza, but, it definitely feels like the weakest Heisman group I've seen, and I've been watching football since like 85. Trick play. Denzel Boston back to Damon Williams Jr. They're getting tricky out there. Get tricky. Third and goal at the Broncos 6. And again, Fernando Mendoza did great, for Indiana, but I don't know if he goes number 1 or number 2 to like the Raiders or the Jets. I don't know if he would be able to carry a team. Like, I think he's a good college quarterback, but he's definitely not, NFL ready like Bo Nix and Jaden Daniels were, coming in. It feels like he is good in college, but we'll wait and see. I don't know if I have the confidence in him being a good NFL quarterback. He's going to have to prove it to me. And especially if he gets picked first or second, you're going to be going to a team that's got a shitty O-line. So, it's one thing to do good, for Indiana against Oregon and Ohio State, but there's a totally another, level of playing when you're going to be going against big dogs, in the AFC or the NFC, wherever he lands. Timeout, Huskies. It was 3-3 though after the first quarter. So, I mean, it like I mentioned in the, beginning of the game, I did feel that it could be, in the 20s or in the mid 30s, and the very lowest I could have saw the game would be, after like, the first quarter, maybe 2017, something like that. But again, Boise State was never able to really get anything on the running game. And obviously that led to them passing almost every down and not passing well. And then their quarterback that started, Madsen, got hurt right as the first half ended and then ended up in a boot. And then they've had the backup in the second half. So, again, the backup looked better, than the starter. But again, when you end up being, first down, and goal at the 6, and you're going to pass it, into double coverage, then, what do you think is going to happen? Yeah. So it's not like Fernando Mendoza is going to go to the Raiders or Jets, and then all of a sudden they're going to turn into a good team. Like, I think the quarterback class is pretty weak. It doesn't look very good. Is there a few names that could pan out? It's possible, but it just feels like, I don't know, kind of a down year, as far as talent in college football. There are going to be some studs, in the skill position players, O-line, D-line, defense, there are going to be some, but it definitely feels like kind of a weaker class. Well, the bottom line is the Huskies are more talented. I mean, you could be 6th or 7th in the Big Ten going against number 1 in the Mountain West, right, which is Boise State. And you can tell the skill set is not the same. Hell, even if they had Ashton Genty, you're not winning this game. You might end up being at 10 at this point, or maybe 13, but, not in the same category. And Madsen actually looked pretty good throughout the year, but you're going against Mountain West competition. That's not the same as like the Pac-12 before they broke up, or the Big Ten, especially when the Big Ten's got almost 20 teams now. If you end up finishing in the top 8, in the Big Ten, a lot of those teams in the top 8 could end up beating top teams in another conference, especially if it ends up being a smaller conference like the Mountain West. Damon Williams is like Kyler Murray. Jonah Coleman, before the injury, was one of the better backs. Not as good as Jeremiah Love throughout the whole season from Notre Dame, but, when Jonah Coleman was healthy, he's been able to ball. Denzel Boston has been fantastic, and again, the defense is sideline to sideline, and, even though they lost to the Ducks, the Huskies, this is great for them to finish strong and to beat the ass of a team that won their conference, to show, hey, we could be 6th or 7th in our conference, and we can still beat your ass. Touchdown, Jonah Coleman. Let's go. Jonah bounces it to the outside, and finally, there it is, baby. The Jonah Coleman touchdown after the fumble. And again, hopefully the next one will go to Adam Muhammad. Way to bring that electricity to make up after that fumble. Jonah, 6-yard TD rush, 37-3 dogs. Nice job, Jonah. Notriani is a stud. He could definitely play, in college football on any team. But again, it's like, if you only got one guy on defense that you can really lean on, and he made like every play besides like one in the first quarter. And that ended up, making it a 3-3 tie. But we've had 35 unanswered since then. And now it's 38-3 Huskies. And now, if you're a Husky fan, you just got to hope Jed Fish doesn't take the Michigan job and leave. Oh, yeah. Yeah, you got to also realize, Boise State went 9-4 and won the Mountain West. But again, athletes are built different in different, conferences. The Big Ten is king. So if it's one thing to be Indiana or Ohio State or Oregon as a powerhouse, but you can't sleep on the other teams, the Huskies, right? The Iowa Hawkeyes, the USC Trojans. There's a reason why, 3 out of the 4 teams from the Pac-12 that they brought in are good. The only one that's not good is UCLA. They should have brought in Utah instead, but they brought UCLA in to match up with the rivalry with USC, and obviously for basketball purposes as well. But Utah would have been the smarter choice to bring them into the Big Ten to make the conference even stronger. So, but also too, the Huskies normally don't have, this type of talent year in and year out. Now, obviously with Michael Penix Jr. and Jalen McMillan and Roma Dunzier, we saw that. And then obviously this group has got really good quarterback, really good running backs, really good wide receiver. And again, some years when you watch the Huskies, they don't have that same type of depth, right? Where they might have a couple guys that are pretty good, but maybe not as good as Michael Penix Jr. or Damon Williams. So you're starting to see them with a little bit better quarterback talent, right? The running back talent, obviously the wide receiver talent, has gotten quite a bit better in the last 5 years for the Huskies. And then you're also going to get some guys on the O-line and the defense, guys like Vita Vea, obviously on the Buccaneers now. So, we know the Huskies, definitely have NFL players. And again, they're definitely on a different level than Boise State here today. Shotgun set. No, and then they decide to hand it off. And minimal gain there on 2nd down and 10 by Malik Sherrod, 6-yard run. Sagapolu there with the tackle. 3rd down and 4 at the Bronco 27. Yeah, well, he wasn't really that good of a coach as it was. So, obviously trying to fill in for Harbaugh, that's a tough thing to do. But, when you cheat on your wife and then you fire that girl, and then she leaks the information, and then you go back, to the house, and then you end up running away and hiding in a church and getting arrested. Like, he's never going to coach again. So that's on him, and you got to be able to keep those relations. Again, you have to understand, if you're making millions of dollars, do you really want to jeopardize your family and your job? And, apparently that relationship was enough of something that he'd be willing to chance it, that he wasn't going to get caught and whatnot. So, but I highly doubt that he's the only one that has done something like that. I imagine there's, quite a few, coaches and whatnot in different sports that, have done the same exact thing, but, maybe have not gotten caught. So. Five-yard penalty there with the false start. 3rd down and 9. Ooh, nice catch. First down, Broncos. Move the chains. But at least it opens the door, for a better coach to come in. Max Cutford to Latrell Caples on that last play. Floater towards the sideline. Intercepted again. Let's go. Huskies, baby. 2 picks in the game. Let's go. Huskies pouring it on. And another interception. Hey, let's throw in a double coverage like 5 times in the game and see what happens. 38-3 Huskies. Nice job by Thompson. $9:50 left in the 4th quarter. 38-3 Huskies. Like, sub, donate, comment, share. If you haven't smashed that like button yet, please do. Help us get to 100 likes, 100 on that dono train. And 5 to 15 subs. Let's get it, baby. Shout out to my boy Brooks Beats with the best beats on YouTube. $91 subs to get to 23,400. Let's get it, baby. I'll be waking up early tomorrow, and I highly recommend, if you're a football fan, to do the same. I'm going to be watching the Bills and the Patriots at 10 a.m. tomorrow, and then I'll be watching Packers Broncos at 1:25 Pacific, as well as the Lions and Rams. And then once all those are done, I'll probably catch a little bit of the Seahawks and the Colts as well. Hopefully Phillip Rivers can last 4 quarters, probably not. And then we'll be doing the Cowboys hosting the Vikings, which I feel that will be, even though both teams aren't the greatest, I think it will actually be a good game. And then we've got Dolphins and Steelers on Monday night. And then we'll do both of those streams. And then Thursday, the game of the year, Rams versus Seahawks. The battle for NFC West supremacy. Can't wait for that. It's going to be the game of the year, or one of the top 3 games of the year, especially this late in the season. It's going to be awesome. Boise State scored first with their kicker named Boomer, 52-yarder, which was very impressive. And then it's just been all Huskies since. Grady Gross with a field goal, making it 3-3 in the first quarter. And then Denzel Boston, 78-yard touchdown. Blown coverage there by Boise State was foreshadowing of things to come. And then Roebuck with the touchdown. Vines Bright with a touchdown. Moore with a touchdown. And then obviously Jonah Coleman with the last touchdown. Let's get Adam Muhammad in the end zone. 5 picks for the Huskies. Is that good? All right, Damon Williams' day is done. The backup is in now. All right, let's see what Kai Horton can do. The Tulane transfer. Shotgun set for Kai Horton. Going to Denzel Boston, going deep. He's got a man. Double coverage, incomplete. Second down and 10 at the Washington 40. I mean, you don't want to do what Boise State did, throw into double coverage. They were lucky that wasn't picked. $15 for 24, 211 yards, 4 TDs. Yeah, only 19 years old. Phenomenal talent. Shotgun set on second down and 10 for the backup Kai Horton, the Tulane transfer. Nice throw there. Evans, close to the first down marker. 10-yard pass. First down, Huskies. Move the chains. Kai Horton to Omari Evans. Move the chains. Wild that this game was 3-3 in the first quarter. Uh-oh, it's 12 noon. You know what time it is. Time for a sack lunch. Yum, 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 yum. Big sack there on Kai Horton. That's probably one of the best plays the Broncos have had all night. Lane with his second sack lunch of the game. 11-yard loss, second down and 21 at the Washington 39. Too bad they don't give him points for sacks. And then that way maybe Boise State could get to 10 at least. But at this point, I don't even know if Boise State can score. Touchdown is kind of out of the question, even though they got as close to the 6-yard line before they threw a pick. But, I don't even know if they can get a pick or a field goal. And at this point, they probably wouldn't even kick a field goal. They're just going to be going for touchdowns and, turnover on downs. Washington breaking tackles. There we go. RB3 there for the Huskies, looking nice. 7-yard run. Bowen Phelps there with the tackle from Boise State. Third down and 14 at the Husky 46. All right, what does Washington have next year? Indiana, Iowa, Minnesota, Penn State on the road, Michigan State, Nebraska, Oregon, Purdue, and USC. So you would assume Indiana, Iowa, USC, and Oregon will be tough, but no Ohio State and no Michigan for Washington next year. And we'll see if Penn State can rebound from their terrible season this year, or Oregon, definitely ruined them. Screen pass. And Omari Evans there with the screen. Flag on the play. Offsides on the defense. 5-yard penalty. Repeat third down. At least Boise State's got a fire helmet. If they got one thing going for them, that helmet is insane. Third down and 9 at the Boise State 49. About 6 minutes to go here in the fourth quarter. Shotgun set. And Chris Lawson. Oh, tipped and complete. Fourth down and 9 at the Boise State 49. And I would assume that Washington will punt. And Luke Dunn with the punt. And fair caught by Boise State. All right, Broncos. You got 6 minutes to get 3 or, I don't even know if they would go for a field goal. They probably won't. So, you got 6 minutes to try to get in the end zone to make it at least 38-10. But I don't even know, even if Washington brought up backups for every spot on defense, I don't even know if they could score on them. Good for the Huskies to finish their season strong, after a few, disappointing games, and it shows you how competitive the Big Ten is. It's the best conference in football. I mean, you could still be the, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th best team in the Big Ten, and you can still beat the ass of a team that's in a smaller conference, even if they finish number 1, like Boise State. So Dylan Riley, nice 10-yard run there. He's got 10 tutties on the year, but he's been very ineffective against this Husky D-line. First down and 10 at the Broncos 16. Six more to 50. Let's get there, baby. I mean, if we can get to the half number, that would be a success. Hand in motion. Hand off. Looks like a hold there by the Bronco offensive line, but at this point in the game, they're not going to call it. Loss of 1 by Dylan Riley. Frustration boiling over for a lot of those Broncos. You feel pretty good about yourself coming into the game, 9-4 record. You won the Mountain West. But again, it shows you how good the Big Ten really is and how good the Pac-12 was, with the teams like USC, Washington, and Oregon. Any of those 3 teams at some point could end up winning the Big Ten in the future. I mean, we know how good Indiana and Ohio State, Michigan, Penn State have been, recently and, over the years. Oh, tipped, and almost another interception. That would have been interception number 6 for the Huskies. Oh, my. Great defense by the Huskies today. Third down and 8 at the Boise State 18. If you haven't got a chance, TJ, to listen to Brooks's beats, he's got a few new ones in there from a few days back. And a 2-yard run there by Malik Sherrod. And Terrio Thompson there with the tackle. And Cuthbert incomplete on 4th down and 6 to Latrell Caples. They said, fuck it, go deep. And that's going to be turnover on downs. Oh, flag on the play. The only way Boise State can get yards is if they get penalties on the Huskies. That's sad. Cuthbert did have one good drive that did get him to the 6, but then he threw it into double coverage for a pick. All right, 5-yard penalty there on Jacob Lane, who was offsides. 4th down and 3 at the Boise State 23. I mean, it was an even first quarter when it was tied up at 3-3, but it's been all dogs since then. Sire Gaines runs up the middle for a 5-yard gain. First down, Boise State. Move the chains. Durfee with the tackle there from the Huskies off the edge. All right, we got less than 4 minutes to go in this ass whooping. First down and 10 at the Boise State 28. Husky game. And I'm glad that we, ended up getting a good turnout, even though this game ended up being a blowout. Handoff up the middle. Eight-yard run there by Sire Gaines. Second down and 2 at the Boise State 36. Rylan Dillard Allen, the safety for the Huskies, with the tackle. And we got about 3 minutes to go and kind of garbage time here. And obviously, the Huskies more than likely, could end up getting, another field goal or a touchdown. But, it's not like they really, need to if they were able to get the turnover, or a pick or a fumble. But right now, Boise State going in the wrong direction. 2nd down and 2, 2nd down and 3 turns into 3rd and long now. Boise State complaining that was a face mask, and it probably was. All right, loss of 6 there from Sire Gaines. Let's get some of the Husky backups in the game. So especially if you got some seniors or some freshmen, get them a little bit of love and experience here. But you got to be really happy, with Damon Williams, as far as, being a Husky fan, that you're going to have him, for a few years. But in the DeBoer Fish era, you definitely have seen a lot of talent at quarterback, running back, and wide receiver, especially tight end. And hopefully they'll continue to get more offensive line and defense added on to that formula. Third down and 8. Shotgun set. Going towards the sideline. Wide open. There we go. First down. Broncos. Move the chains. Nice job from Max Cutford to Latrell Caples. Caples has had a few good catches here today, but again, hasn't led to points, but at least they're able to move the chains here. 5 catches for 70 yards. Great day there for Caples, with all things considered. Play action on first down and 10. Cutford, wide open. Nice. First down, Broncos. Are they going to get a garbage touchdown before this one's over? Henry with the catch. And that's going to take us to the 2-minute warning. Now, if we can get Max Cutford to make, a couple more throws like that, it will be 38-10. But again, even though the Huskies do have 5 picks in this game, as long as you're not throwing into fucking double or triple coverage, you might be able to get into the end zone. Commercial break. 38-3 Huskies in the bucked up LA Bowl, hosted by Gronk. But luckily, we haven't got a chance to see Gronk that much. It's been pretty minimal, which is nice. Damon Williams, stud. Jonah Coleman, before his injury, stud. Should have got Adam Mohammed some more looks. Denzel Boston, stud. Roebuck, stud. A lot of studs there. Yeah, it's possible. You got the backup quarterback in there for Boise State. 38-3 looks a hell of a lot better than 38-6 or 38-10. Go Dogs. Shout out to my boy Brooks Beats, a.k.a. Paradigm, the best beats on YouTube. I think my only gripe for the Huskies is that Adam Mohammed should be getting more looks. Again, against Oregon, he did great, and then they faded him. And again, Jonah Coleman was like a bigger name, but he wasn't really the same running back after the injury, towards the middle to the back end of the season. And when you get a guy like Adam Mohammed who can get you 5 to 15 yards on almost every fucking play, it makes you kind of scratch your head. I know they got 3 running backs that they can go through with Washington as well, but Adam Mohammed is a special back, and again, when you're ending up having that type of success, feed that man. I want to be able to see some explosive runs. No offense to Jonah Coleman, but when you're getting 1 to 3 yards, per game, at some point you got to give the other guy a chance. And nice for Jonah to get into the end zone, but I want to be able to see top tier talent, find a way to be able to make a name. So. But it's definitely been an ass whooping from the second quarter to this point. It was 3-3 after the first quarter, but since then, all dogs. And I love to see the Pacific Northwest teams like Oregon and Washington dominate when they end up playing. Again, we're going to be rivals through and through, but I'm not like every other Oregon fan. Like I said, I watch every Husky game from beginning to end. So, it's like I might be a Mariner fan and a Kraken fan because I live in Oregon, obviously with the Blazers and the Ducks. Obviously, if I lived in Washington, I would be a Husky fan. But, I always watch, not necessarily to spy on them, but I like to be able to see, talent. And, I watched every single game from beginning to end of the Huskies, and I highly doubt any Oregon Duck fan did the same. So I love college football, and I love seeing Pacific Northwest teams do well. Now, I don't know, when the Cougars or the Beavers are ever going to be good again, but, the Huskies and the Ducks definitely got something cooking. 2-minute warning. Shotgun set here for Max Cutforth. And going deep to Chris Marshall, incomplete. Miller with the coverage. And he kind of turned his head late there, and it bounced off his shoulder. Come on, Chris. Johnson with the good coverage there. Second down and 10 at the Washington 33. Yeah, Beavers got hit the hardest, out of those teams in the Pacific Northwest. The Cougs, can still be, floating around 500 and play good here and there. But the Beavers are, very bottom of the totem pole in college football now, which is sad. But when you lose your coach and you lose all your recruits, and a nice catch there, first down, Broncos. Max Cutforth to Chris Marshall, 25-yard pass, first and goal at the Washington 8. And as long as they don't throw in a double coverage, they might be able to get in the end zone. We got fucking blasted. But a nice job by Chris Marshall with the catch. Now let's see if the Huskies can hold them to 3, but got a minute 30 and counting. Great day for Chris Marshall. 5 catches for 97 yards. Cutforth looking for a target. Nobody's open. Tipped off the crossbar. Intercepted. But obviously it hit the crossbar, so. Now, if that was the XFL, maybe that would have counted. I mean, some of the games this year, the Cougars look decent, but not really the same. They kind of got left in the dust in the Pac-12 after, the conference realignment. Second and goal at the Washington 8. Let's see if Boise State can find a way. This has been their best drive all game. 12 plays, 86 yards. Can they get in the end zone? Man in motion. Touchdown, Broncos. And Matt Lauder, the tight end. Touchdown, Boise State. So it looks like you're not going to get your wish, Neil, of keeping them to 3, but at least it looks a little bit better on the scoreboard. Nice job by Lauder. Engages with the block, looks for the football. Great job by the backup quarterback for Boise State, Max Cutforth, not throwing in a double coverage for once, and that leads to points for Boise State, which they haven't had since the first quarter. Nice job. That's got to feel good for Lauder. 13 plays, 94 yards. You obviously got a few backups in for the Huskies as well on defense. So Boomer with the extra point towards that right crossbar, and good. Six days away from the college football playoff. We'll be doing about 90% of these games. We'll do James Madison in Oregon. We'll do Alabama, Oklahoma. We won't do Tulane, Ole Miss, or Miami, Texas A&M. But then when it goes to the next round, if we go Oregon, Texas Tech, we'll be doing that game. And then at some point, Oregon versus Indiana. and then hopefully Oregon versus Georgia or Oregon, Ohio State for the Natty. So we'll end up doing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 potential games. So we'll be doing probably about half of the games, maybe a little bit more than half. I mean, obviously Oregon's got an easy path. James Madison. The Texas Tech game, is going to be tough though, because it'll be at 9 a.m. And anyone that plays at 9 a.m. would know. Sometimes you are, a little sleepy. It takes a little time to kind of get going when you play at 9 a.m. And then obviously if we win that, Indiana in a rematch, since they beat us earlier in the year, I like our chances to compete. And then obviously if you win that, then you go against Georgia or Ohio State in the Natty. So Oregon's got the perfect path to get to the Natty. Not like last year when they had a month off and had to play Ohio State in the first game. That was not ideal. And, we'll see what happens. And we'll see if the workers at ESPN will get out of the bathroom to update the scoreboard. It's not 38-3, it's 38-10, but, it wouldn't surprise me if James Madison keeps the game somewhat close, in the first half, and then we pull away in the second half. So, I mean, it would be nice to just blow them out of the water right from the very beginning. But, as, being an Oregon fan since the 80s, I know that sometimes, we start a little slow. So, but Dan Lanning is great at making adjustments at halftime. So even if it ends up being a slow start, should be able to win. Onside kick there by Boise State, recovered by the Huskies. Oh, it looks like ESPN employees finally got out of the bathroom to update the scoreboard. Good for you. 38-10 Huskies. Yeah, the Texas Tech game, Oregon could lose that, They're, especially being at 9 a.m. It's like the opponent and 9 a.m. It's like the James Madison, we should win that one. Could win it by a blowout. Could end up winning it by, a smaller amount by like 7 or 10 if we play bad, and then, once it goes from there, we'll see. But I like the simple fact that we would potentially have to go against Indiana and Ohio State again. In the last 2 years, those have been the thorns in our sides, and I would love to get payback. So, and even though on paper it looks like, Oregon's going to win by 20 or 30, sometimes we start slow. So, and sometimes you get your best effort out of that lower team. They're playing like it's their, natty. It's like their Super Bowl. So, and when you get smaller teams that play like that, against a team that has more talent, sometimes, especially if you can get sacks, on Oregon. If you can get sacks on Oregon, then obviously it'll be much closer. That's how you end up beating Oregon. If you get 5 to 8 sacks on Oregon, that's when you know that you're going to win or it's going to be really, really close. 1 yard run there by Quade Carr. Now they're going 4th string running back for the Huskies. And now the clock is winding down as they give him the Gatorade bath. All right, take care, Marine Beam. And that is it. Final score, Huskies 38, Boise State Broncos 10. Shout out to all the people that liked, sub, donated, commented, shared. I appreciated everyone that came through to show some love. And again, we will be back tomorrow for Sunday Night Football for the Vikings and Cowboys on stream, 5:15 Pacific. And then we'll also be doing the Dolphins and Steelers at 5:15 Pacific on Monday night. Appreciate every single one of y'all. Final score, Huskies 38, Boise State 10. And I got one question for you. Who talks sports like us? Your boy Ryan, Northwest Sports Fanatics. Congratulations, Washington Huskies. You guys played like dogs today, and I'm out. Okay.